I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
No,
This is interesting.
now let's have that chemistry,
We've
but
gone
let's
from
manufacture it.
keeping commas to short sentences.
And if I didn't know
We're
better,
live, guys.
I'd say this looks like
Well,
a
it is.
from some weird
Although
science
the
fiction movie.
intro is played right now.
You have
so
not
it's fine.
earned the right to be meta yet.
100%.
I'm
It takes-
walking
It
in
takes
here.
balls the size of dodgeballs.
What's funny though is that they really listen.
Walk up to
They
6
really put
random
their
ass
ears
dudes in the
and
woods
still
you
hear
know
all
have
the shit
weapons.
backstage.
And they're all
They're
fighting.
So yeah, that's how comes the whole thing.
Terror.
It's time to be deliberately overdramatic so that people get the fucking point.
Totally serious moment here. Having loved you so, I'll never be the same.
Yes,
I
we're
can't
professional.
accept that. It pleases me to be so changed.
Your passion.
I can even spell professional.
Driving me to madness.
And it feels so nice
Oh yeah, that.
when I whip out my dice.
P-E-R.
And I also whip my tick out. The only curve around here is the fight
P-E-R-F-E-S
curve. You
H-U-N-A-L.
As the
This
digital
thing's gonna go off the
ink
rails.
assaults
isn't it?
your
I mean, I can
eyes.
just
Yeah.
be like, it's not even on the rails already.
I will take pumpkin pie. Perfectly normal daily thing. Making
And I wouldn't have it
Do you
any
ever
other way.
get people on the show
Fluffy
who've
orange
actually
sleeves.
watched the show,
Sat
Zach?
top.
Because I feel like nobody ever knows what they're getting themselves in for
I
when they
tell
come
them
on.
to. I tell them to watch the show.
I did with my pre-interview thing. I checked it out. I was here. I can live in this
But
space.
you just pulled out of your butt.
See how it goes, man.
Message of the story, something that I fuck with. Don't let the government hold you hostage. Reds rebel, cause you know
And
they
everything
got
got
us. So
even
sick of being
worse.
lambs to the slaughter. And each line written so nice.
And
Crows
not
flow
only
like
that, you then brought
obsidian
me on.
ice. Chills
and-
down your spine. Fine as red wine.
and I don't have a
Author like
serious bone in my
comma,
body.
splicing every line.
Oh no. Oh no. You're gonna have an entire bone structure with nothing but funny bones? That one?
Yeah, and it's not good when you're blind too and you're constantly bumping into walls.
No.
They did the mash. They did the monster mash. They do the mash. It was
Mash.
a graveyard smash. They did the mash. They did
Mash.
the monster mash. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Adventurous After Dark. This is the show where we adventure in the morning because that's what happens after the dark.
Yep.
We are your hosts, Zach, Kate, and Mason. This is our guest, JV. Why don't you lovely people introduce yourselves?
But you just did it for us, so we don't need to.
I gave your names. You could tell the people, hey, I'm Mason. I'm blind as a bat, and I have a YouTube channel where I make good content. Hey, I'm Kate. I'm the brains of the operation. You guys could say something about yourselves.
I'm Mason, I'm blind as a bat, and I have a YouTube channel where I make good content. There you go, I said it. No, seriously, I have a
funny
YouTube channel.
guy.
It's youtube.com/Mason in the Dark. You want poetry? I got it. Short stories? I got it. Narrated, written by myself. Book reviews? Sometimes.
Oh man.
Ladies first. You can go before me, I guess.
Okay. And I'm Kate. Everybody knows me as Wild Kate. I have a YouTube channel, Wild Writer, over on YouTube, where I do writing advice, book reviews, author reviews, all that jazz. And most of the time, you can find me here, though. Doing stuff.
And I am JV Hilliard. Everybody here, I can see we're all letting our hair down. You can call me Joe. You don't have to call me JV. That's just for the book. And it's something that's a bit of a trope in epic fantasy. So I went by JV instead of Joe. But as you can tell, I write epic fantasy. So if you're a fan of sword and sorcery, or you like Game of Thrones, or Lord of the Rings, or Dungeons and Dragons, or any of those kind of things, I think you'll like the Warminster series. And book one of the Warminster series is The Last Keeper, which came out in December, and the second book's coming out in August. So I'm sure we'll talk about that a little later.
Yes, we will be getting to that very shortly. Now, I'm going to confess to you, sir, I am a shitty host, and I wasn't able to get to much of your book, but I did read some of it last night.
What did you think?
What was that?
Because again,
I read some of it, and then he takes a long sip of coffee. It's like, oh shit.
oh, that's not coffee, that's full throttle.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I poured it out of the can into the mug so that I could deceive people into thinking I'm
Make it look good,
sophisticated.
right? Yeah.
This isn't hard liquor. It's only 11 in the morning.
I swear I didn't pour gasoline into this. I'm not trying to kill myself.
Hey, it's noon somewhere, right?
No.
No, but I was looking over it, and there's a few places where something caught my eye as being something that I would change or something that I thought was a little bit askew. But overall, the writing was pretty good. And despite finding the nitpicky thing here and there, I definitely was drawn into it, and it read well. And if I'd picked it up in a store, I probably would have walked out of the store with it. So we're going to dissect it as we do in a little segment we call Bad Pros, what you gonna do when the pros police are coming for you? Bad Pros. Beyblade.
Let it rip.
So, I'm going to get this up on screen here.
Sharpen your knives, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to feast.
Yeah.
I hope it's a salad and not the whole steak.
Well, considering that it's your ass on the chopping block.
It's a little soup. Okay. Figure it out.
Yeah, just be aware, Joe. Zach, he doesn't know what pulling punches is.
It's
I
I
don't-
can smell that already. We're all good, man. I've got a thick skin.
I don't believe in that. This is the literary arena. We're the arena of ideas. If you can't step in and take a hit, step the fuck out. You know what I mean?
I do.
Alrighty, so Caitlin,
Fire away.
you've read more than me actually. Do you think we should start with the prologue or chapter 1?
We can start with the prologue.
I agree. All right. So
I mean,
Just so you know, Joe, we did Twilight last week. It took us about 40 minutes to get through the prologue that Stephanie Meyer called a preface.
yes.
No.
Yeah, that's all right. It's okay. I don't mind. I have a very long prologue, so it's fine. We can spend all show on it. Doesn't matter.
I'd actually beg to differ on that slightly. As far as epic fantasy standards go, this isn't that long of a prologue.
Sure.
I'd say by classic epic fantasy standards, this is actually kind of par for the course.
Yeah, I wanted to make it more than just it's more of the villain's origin story told through the eyes, well, lack thereof, of the villain. So I'm glad you enjoyed that piece.
Oh, that's a spoiler.
Oh, I like a good villain.
Yeah.
I like exploring villains, as you'll find out if you ever check out The Bleeding Ground, which is the book that I'm currently releasing in installments.
I'll check it out.
It really is, dude. His sound production, that's less of an audiobook and more of a fucking old-timey radio show. Like, the sound production
that's
is
even
off the
cooler.
chain.
That is cooler.
And Biz is here.
Hey, what's up, Biz? How's my boy doing today?
Biz, you are awesome.
All these damn commercials. You are not wrong, Biz. You are not wrong. So, Biz, you just got here. So what we're doing is, this is our guest, Joe. We're going to be prose policing, dissecting some of his work, which is on screen right now. So, I'm going to take one last sip of liquid happiness.
Yes.
So that I can rev my engine, which is actually just made of protein and pudding.
You're forgetting ego. Don't forget ego. It's the biggest part.
That's
That's the biggest helping of your ingredients.
that's the metaphysical glue that holds all the physical matter together. Prologue. And then this is another thing that's interesting that you've done, Joe, and I actually do this too. You sort of title your chapters with quotes up at the top, and I thought I was the only one that did that.
Well, I like doing that. I think it's something that prepares the reader for what they're about to jump into. I like having a little bit of a cliffhanger that keeps you turning pages at the end of a chapter, and I like sort of warning them what's about to come. And if they can figure it out, great. But I always got to that point where it was so much easier if I saw something that I knew it'd be hard to put down, and I would just want to keep reading. So I'm glad you liked that part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
And
the
classic move too, because I
Yes.
noticed a lot of classic literature does that.
So
I like
the quote is, "The blade of betrayal, the sharpest of weapons, is wielded not by your enemies, but by your friends." Warminster the Mage. And that is, if that ain't truer than anything else, fuck.
Yeah.
Alrighty. The sun was beginning to show red over the horizon. As the wooded hollow in the shadow of the Dragon's Breath Mountains, which is an awesome name for a mountain range, by the way,
Right.
Dragon's Breath Mountains stirred. Light streamed into the valley, illuminating the dew that clung to the long blades of grass and turning it into a sea of little stars. The first song of the morning echoed out of the trees and was soon supported by a chorus. The soft, steady rush of a stream lay beneath the sound of the birds. It was a new one that had survived the flood of the last rain, and that might someday carve its own valley out of the mountain. Overhead, a breeze gently rustled the leaves of the treetops, seeming to whisper wordless secrets over the forest. That's the first paragraph. I'll tell you, and then I'll let everyone else go. I'm just gonna say, very simply, it's very good.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a killer opening.
Yeah.
Thank you.
As a blind reader, whenever anyone can craft a paragraph like that and give me an opening where I can just totally visualize what you're giving to me, I always appreciate that.
Well, thanks, Mason. It's funny, as Zach will continue here, you'll find that the villain is blind. So
No way!
I write through the lack of his vision, and for him, there are things that he hears and smells and sees, and he just perceives it in a different way. And the main character is, well, you'll get into that later when we get to chapter 1. I don't want to get too far ahead.
Yeah, so, like Mason was saying, the description is absolutely fantastic. The poetic language is strong enough to where it gives us voice, and it gives us depth of writing without sounding too preachy or too over the top. So I think the whole thing is really well written. Kate, any comments before I move on?
I was just going to reiterate, it's very immersive without being heavy-handed.
Yeah.
So I like the fact that it uses very simple yet poetic language without being too verbose.
Thank you.
Okay.
God damn it, the one bit of blind rep I get, and it has to be a villain. It's just like, don't breathe!
Oh god, that
More to
movie.
it.
That
There's
movie
more
made me feel unclean.
We never get any rep, and now you've made us into a villain. God damn you, Joe!
Nate, I'm telling you, man, if you just hold on for a little bit, the protagonist, the guy, the hero, it was also born blind, but he was
Yes!
he was touched by a mage of some kind, and he was brought sight, and with that sight came this metaphysical sight. He's able to see. He becomes a prophet and a seer. So he now can see, but his eyes are white, and that's also just happens to be the color of his god, or I call them ancients in this realm. So there's a connection between the two. As you continue to read through, you'll find that out.
Well, you have the blind guy stamp of approval, so nobody can cancel you for using blind people from now on.
Hashtag cancel JV.
If anybody gives you shit, you tell them you ran it past a blind guy and he said it was fine. because I'm the spokesperson for all blind people.
Clearly.
They should be so lucky.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I got
And
the
it-
Mason good housekeeping seal of approval.
In an instant, a single ear-splitting sound drowned the valley in a thunderous clap. A white-hot blaze of magic twisted the air, charring the ground beneath it. Birds fluttered into a frenzied cloud, while woodland creatures scattered in all directions. A human figure, hunched and bleeding, tumbled out of the rift and onto the blackened ground. Now here's one of the first nitpicky things I was talking about. So that's the second paragraph, and all of that's good except for tumbled out of the rift. What rift? That just shows up out of nowhere. What, like that? I was like, what? I actually went back and looked through the rest of what I just read to like, what rift? You know what I mean? So that should have been the rift should have been introduced instead of just out of the rift. That you guys see what I'm saying?
I do. It's fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, just Caitlin and Mason were staying quiet, and I was like, am I making an ass? Am I being a nitpicky bastard? Or do people see what I'm saying here?
You nitpicky bastards. I'm hanging up.
All right, man. See you later. We'll finish dissecting this.
No, man, when you
Second paragraph, I'm already out.
Oh
no,
man.
man, when you criticise the guests, I stay quiet. And, and I let you dig, and then I can be the good guy.
I found that out on Chonisi.
Yeah. Hey, Joe, it could have been worse. Okay, you could have had unintentional incest vibes.
Oh God!
Tumbling out
Oh
of the
God!
rift. Oh, God. Ugh.
Oh God! Seriously, no, Joe. We did this with a book a few weeks back, and these two picked up on unintentional vibes of incest between these two characters, and they pointed it out to the author, and I was just dying on the inside because the author in question was not happy with
Well,
No.
for what it's worth, I've gotten a lot of criticism. That would have been a first. Unintentional incest vibes. Okay.
Well, she described this female protagonist, right, as being comforted by her brother's warm breath on her ear, and I'm like, whoa, like these are like what?
And then they pointed it out to her and kept trying to explain why it gave them incest vibes, and I was just sitting here like, guys, stop digging, put the shovel down.
Yeah, just let it go.
But it was so funny though.
Let it
It's
warm
okay, I feel
up.
bad talking about it, but she's not going to be listening to our show, I don't think.
Probably not. Probably not. She's welcome to, and we did like her, but that and to be fair too, her writing was good too. That was just that one thing.
We were like, is this foreshadowing for something later?
Oh God.
Continue, Zach.
All right, yeah. Thank you, Mason. Always count on Mason to try to get us back on the non-existent rails. After a long moment, the figure, a man, finally stirred. His burnt hands pressed into the scarred landscape, and with excruciating difficulty, he forced himself into a seated position. He drew a long breath before lifting his head. The man's face was dirty, his countenance heavily obscured by soot and ash. From his slow movement and hunched posture, he could have been taken for an old man, though in truth he was barely beyond 40. Two dark rivulets, good word, not used enough, rivulets. Two
Or
dark
countenance either.
I use countenance in my own writing, but you're right, not a lot of use these days.
Yeah, I felt the same way about countenance too, so...
I actually picked that one up from Mary Shelley. I read that in Frankenstein, and I was like, I'm gonna start using that. That sounds so much more epic than facial expression.
Yeah.
Now, let's be honest. You saw that in Mary Shelley and you thought, well, I'm going to use that, but better. Because that's the way you think.
You just can't ever just like not take an opportunity to talk about how big my ego is, can you?
No.
Mason's like, I gotta poke holes everywhere I can. Gotta get this ship a sinking. Flowed over the grubby mess of his cheeks, dribbling like tears from the hollow eye sockets. The man's head cocked abruptly to the side, alerted by some instinct, and he listened intently. The faint sound of horses' hooves and the shouting of men's voices issued from his magical portal, which still hung in the air. He cursed to himself and lurched unsteadily to his feet. The man swayed briefly as if unsure of his balance, and then began stumbling deeper into the woods. What?
I was just laughing because real talk, I have terrible balance. So.
Well, something a lot of people don't know actually is that your eyes play an integral part in your equilibrium. Like I'd say like 30 to 40% of the data your brain uses to know how you're standing and where you are in space is visual. So I'm not surprised to hear that, sir. Okay.
You know what this gives me vibes of, this opening?
Ah.
And it's probably not one that you'll be expecting, but Terminator. Like, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Dude comes
Fantasy
through the void and
Terminator.
he's all,
It won't when you keep reading, but I see what you're saying.
Uh-huh.
I absolutely see what you're saying. Yeah. but
High
yeah,
fantasy
no
Terminator.
coming out
I
of the
fucking
rift.
love it. He reached out his hands and felt his way between the trees. The loud whinnying of a spooked horse suddenly echoed through the valley, followed by more shouting and the noise of armored feet hitting the ground. The man in the woods slowed, his shoulders slumping. This was a confrontation he wished to avoid if he could. We couldn't get them through, a voice called from behind him. The horses, nervous beasts, horrible with magic. I suppose you knew that would slow us down. The man came to a halt, his head turning. He made no reply. Then again, said the other, more quietly, I suppose you also knew that we wouldn't need horses to catch you. What a state you're in, old friend. Still better looking than you, Captain, the man answered. His pursuer sighed. You can stall all you want, Grey Taurus. We have to take you back to the cathedral, and you're in no state to run any further. Do you see me running? Grey Taurus replied. And with a sharp gesture, he uttered a single word, and the door in the air disappeared. At least your horses can run free without you. Why are you trying to force my hand? The captain was beginning to sound frustrated. We can reopen the portal at need. You're only drawing out the inevitable. Oh? Is Radu there? Poor fellow. You ought to be back with your books. Okay, so as we're going, I feel like I just kind of have to keep reading because this is Prose Police. And like the quality of writing is so consistently good and the voice is so consistently good that I'm not, you know what I mean? I can't find something to dissect other than saying, this is good, I like this, I like that.
Good.
yeah, exactly.
Yes, I'll take it. Oh, by the way, I have to say, that's a pretty damn good voiceover acting job you got. I think you might have a second career if you ever chose to go in that direction. That's pretty good. You're adding, I mean, the emotions there, the tension in the voices between the two men. You're doing a pretty damn good job of it. I don't know what you do professionally, but you might want to give that a shot.
I have an IMDb credit.
Oh.
Yeah.
There you
Oh,
go.
Joe.
Oh no!
Why? Why must you stroke his ego?
He just told me he was having a hard time pointing out or dissecting stuff, so I was thanking him. That was my way of being. He was thoughtful and he tried, and I'm glad to know that I conquered it. Right, at least so far. At least so far.
Yeah.
No, I think you're doing a really good job so far, and to be frankly honest, despite the fact that the Bleeding Ground has been classified by Zach as dark fantasy, I'm not a big fantasy reader, other than The Lord of the Rings being my favourite series of all time. So whenever a fantasy can pique my interest, I always know that there's something good going on.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I'm glad you like it so far.
The main
I like
thing,
that badass line too, the "Do you see me running?"
yeah,
Right. Yes.
that is a classic line. That that is one of
And-
those good meaty lines that you can sink your teeth in, especially if this was adapted to the screen and you got a good voice actor and you set the scene for that right. The tension of that moment could be very high.
Yeah.
It's good dialogue.
Yeah, and reading over that, the first time I read over that, it gave me that oh shit moment.
Right.
Like, oh, he's about to do something. They're all about to die.
Right. It definitely gives that vibe for sure.
Somebody you don't mess with.
Right, exactly.
Right. It's like, oh, did I really want to follow this guy through that magical portal? Maybe I should have left. Maybe I should have left well enough alone.
Yeah,
I should have tumbled out of that rift.
because when he said, "Poor fellow, you ought to be back with your books," I was like, yes, you should have stayed home with your books. Because you're about to die.
Just like evil clerks, you're not even supposed to be here today.
Classic.
So, I think what I'll do is I'm gonna skip ahead here.
Oh man.
I apologise for spluttering, by the way. Just this cold is being
It
persistent.
is okay.
I do not see this cold running.
No.
I didn't know.
So- I'm going to skip ahead to the last two paragraphs of the prologue here.
Yeah.
Though still unconscious, Roan, am I saying that right, Roan?
Yes, you are, Ron.
Nice. Roan drew in a harsh breath, followed by a loud, keening scream. The crack of bone met Grey Taurus's ears as the man beside him began to transform. At the same time, his own pain intensified, so that he too was unable to keep from crying out. His strength finally drained to its limit by the necrotic ravages of the spell that had petrified the hollow. Grey Taurus lost consciousness and collapsed to the ground. Moments later, the nameless beast that had once been Roan Talamare stirred and woofed quietly, sat back on its haunches, and waited for its master to awaken. So, what I like about the prologue overall, up at the top, now the first paragraph is just a very good scene set, but we get a decent hook with the dialogue as the header of the prologue. So that serves to be a somewhat decent hook. And then we get the writing in the description of the setting is compelling enough to be a secondary hook. It's like, okay, so this writer has the command of language and the literary legs to write something that isn't shit. So those two things immediately hook you enough to persist.
Yeah.
And we get to
That's a quote I want to put on the back of my book. From Zach. This isn't shit.
This guy has what it
Please
takes to
leave
not
me
write a
Amazon
shit book.
review with that. 5 stars. This isn't shit.
Hey man, I'm not gonna
love
name names, but I've read Michael Roth a lot of bad shit, and
I'll fist you the sorceress.
I'll fist you the sorceress. And, sometimes I start reading through stuff and it is just like, well, like Mason said, it took us 40 minutes to get through the preface, which is actually a prelude of Stephanie Meyer's Twilight. It took us 40 minutes to get through that because we were constantly stopping to rip it to shreds. And other than a nitpicky thing here or there in your writing, there really isn't much to critique. In my professional opinion, your command of punctuation is pretty damn good. You have a really good sentence structure that's consistent. The consistency of language is pristine. And then, as I was getting to before I got drawn off a little bit, what's good about the prologue you have here is we open with that thing that hooks us into the writing, and then this end here is fairly gripping. And now I'm definitely interested in finding out why this is the prologue and what happens down the line from this, And so then we open up into chapter 1, which we have time. We'll read the first page of chapter 1 too.
And I would also like to say I like your creative use of language because being an etymologist and lexiconographer, that's my jam. And that you use words like meaning.
Oh, I'm glad you like it.
I know.
And countenance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Score points with countenance too.
Yes, and necrotic ravages. I love that. That's fucking awesome. Necrotic ravages.
Ooh, is that the name of
The...
Guts album?
Yeah, you just beat me to it.
That's
Necrotic Ravages, the new album from Red Guts.
By now, it's not that we're gonna sell out. We just need your money.
It's not a bad name for a metal band.
So Rat Guts is the name of a fictional metal band that Mason has created as part of some of his comedic content over on YouTube.
Okay.
And it's his video called TalkTube. If you have a free 15 minutes and want to cry laughing, go check it out. It is.
Definitely check it out.
Oh my god.
It's a parody radio show of a sort of like agony aunt type character, but who is completely oblivious and also very self-absorbed. But it's complete with fake advertisements and and all that goodness. It's sort of like I tried to create something akin to one of the GTA radio stations, like that sort of thing.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I will definitely give that a listen to. But I have to say this because I don't know why I have to say it. I just watched last weekend a show. It was a movie on Netflix called The Metal Lords, and it's a bit of it's done by the guys who did Game of Thrones, which is why I was interested. It's like, how do you go from Game of Thrones to like a high school thing with a bunch of headbanger kids? And literally, you don't stop laughing. I mean, it was intended to be a comedy with a little bit of drama behind it, but I would recommend it to anybody. And it sounds like you have a kind of at least a hard rock, if not a heavy metal bend there, Mason. And if you do, you'll like it, I think.
Yes, that does definitely sound like my thing.
There you go. Give it a run.
Alrighty.
Right, let's launch into the next. Yeah, me and Zach on the same page there.
All right. Yeah, like I said, we'll do the first page of chapter 1 and wrap up. So chapter 1. And so the blinded man shall pass through the fog and walk on the water, the tome of enlightenment. Which I gotta say, for me, I absolutely gobble up mysticism like a fiend. And so that hooks me even better than the prologue quote.
Nice.
because I am a sucker for lore, and that sinks a fat meat hook right into me.
Nice. I'm glad you like it.
Okay, so then Damus Alarak was dreaming again. This wasn't unusual. He was both blessed and cursed with oniomancy, or the power of sight. Visions imparted by Irud, the sexless ancient of knowledge. Only those few who were gifted with the Irudian sight could see events that had not yet come to pass. Omens that were interpreted by his sect, the enigmatic keepers of the forbidden. Which is like, and so, okay, so here's something that merits discussion. The Keepers of the Forbidden, that's one of those names where it's like, if the writing wasn't up to snuff, you would read that and be like, of course they're called Keepers of the Forbidden, because what else would you call a secret, mysterious order of ancient knowledge? But because the level of the writing is high enough you buy that disbelief. You successfully purchase that suspension of from your audience. So bravo for that. You actually get to pull that off without getting the eye roll. It's just like, yep, nope, I'm here for it. Keepers of the Forbidden. Yep, I believe it.
There it is. All right, well, that's good. We're down then. We're good.
All right. It was the same dream he had every night. It would always begin like any normal dream. Hey, Caitlin, write that timestamp down, by the way.
Okay.
Odd yet ordinary, vague and soft. Damus never remembered the first dream, but he always remembered the second, the one that arrived in the early hours of the morning and left him only after his eyes were already open. I mean, now that's one of those things where I could nitpick a little. It's like, well, yeah, isn't that normally how dreams work? You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, he was dreaming. I could have just done that. Instead, I waxed a little poetic on that.
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah. You stroked your own shaft a little bit much on that one. Again, not too much, but just
It's poetic license, Zach.
He's so like Edgar Casey. He sees things when he dreams, and so I wanted to make his dream a little bit more dreamier than, well, you can
Right.
hammer it on. It's okay.
Right.
I'm good.
To be fair, though, Zach, as a blind person who vividly dreams, it does take me a little bit longer than it used to when I wake up from a particularly vivid dream to shake it off.
That's a good point. And see, I obviously, I've never been blinded for a long term. My longest stint without vision was 1 day, so I obviously wouldn't know anything about that. He wandered through fog, aching from the coldness of the sight, a damp chill pressing through his skin and into his bones. I always love descriptions where the cold sinks down into your bones. It instantly, it's one of those things that's just universally resonates if you speak the language. So I always like that. His constant companion. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I basically can't have any input here because you're saying all of the things that I'm thinking before I can get to it.
Oh, man. His constant companion since childhood. Now that right there that's to me a somewhat compelling little throw in. We didn't need that, but it's good character building. It's like he's had this feeling of being cold since childhood, huh? So that's interesting. And it obviously raises the question why. And so that's good. That's a perfect example of how to build characterization and the mythos around a character in very short digestible snippets, and that's exactly how it should be done.
Good. Thanks.
Damus shivered more violently so than usual, but remembered to send his ritual prayer of thanks to Irud. He was much better at that in his dreams than he was during his waking hours. He paused for a moment to catch his breath and look around. The fog seemed to have grown even closer, and when he lifted his hand unbelievingly in front of his face, he could barely make out its silhouette. He took a couple of deep breaths, steadying himself and choking down the urge to panic. There was a sound from somewhere to his right, the cawing of a carrion bird perhaps, and the chilling touch of an unseen breeze that did little to blow away the fog. That did little to blow the fog away. And if I was really, really looking for something to dig into, I could dig in, because you notice how I just read that wrong, because in my brain I said it how I would order that, and it's not that the way you ordered it was wrong. In fact, it's actually consistent with the voice. That's just one of those things where the way my brain structures words and the way it's structured here are in opposition, so I stumbled over it. But that's more of a individual reader thing than it is any fault of the author.
Flip-flop, I get it.
And same, not from me, not criticism, but just something that I would think if I was reading this. I'd probably laugh to myself that dude is an ornithologist. Oh, I know that cawing. It's a carrion bird.
Yeah.
Well, raven, it's a crow. I mean, he caw.
Right.
It's there to eat dead flesh.
It's okay. Don't worry. It's okay. Don't worry. I had a character smell fish and think to himself that it needed seasoning.
He definitely did. He definitely. But to be fair, I can do that too, and I am by no means a chef. My mom has just drugged me into the kitchen since I was a lad to help her with various things in the kitchen, and one of the things I've gotten fairly good at is saying that needs some fucking herbs in it. So, overall, I don't think it's any secret that Team Adventurous is fairly impressed with the writing overall. It's one of those things. I wish I wasn't so damn busy. I would actually sit down and pleasure read that, but I'm currently, me and Kate are currently trying to write this thing for this competition, and we have Twitch and YouTube and a bunch of other shit going on.
Well, thank you for the critique. I appreciate the opportunity to be on the show and kind of work with you guys. And it's one of the reasons I did an audiobook alongside this too. I travel a ton for my day job, and as a result, it's easier sometimes just to plug in when I'm driving or plug in when I'm flying. And it's not the same experience of holding something in your hand and reading it on a Saturday night or whatever, but it does allow, I think, options for people that are in different places in their life. You got young kids, it's hard to read. You're at work and you're a professional, you might not have the time, but it's something you can plug in, and it sort of becomes that 30 minutes or an hour on your way to work where you get that kind of podcast experience with it, and you can fire through it. And I've adapted to doing that sometimes for books that I read too.
Right. And of
Plus,
course,
you can't have blind characters and not have an audiobook of it, because
I was about to make a thing about the accessibility for the blind folks. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, it's good stuff. It's the way of the world, right? Everything's going that way.
we had blind characters in a book that blind people couldn't read. That'd be fucked up.
Right. Braille, right? Braille. You got Braille. You got audiobooks. What are you complaining about?
Oh man.
Well, yeah, we all know Braille, Joe. They teach it us from birth, and
I don't know.
But you weren't blind from birth, though.
yeah, that's why I don't know Braille.
I don't know why I'm laughing at that, but all right. We're good.
So my fellow officers of the pros,
Yes.
accusations, crimes.
You are charged with not being shit.
I'll take that.
This is not a misdemeanor, nor is it punishable by any formal sentence.
You're gonna let me go, right? I can drive off. I'm good. No breathalyzers, we're all good.
We will, however, let you off with a warning. Don't just say shit magically appears without giving us any lead-in or explanation.
Fair enough, officer. I'll take it.
This has been Pros Police.
Bad pros, what you gonna do when the pros police are coming for you? Bad pros, bad pros.
Oh,
Ha! You thought you got rid of me, but really I was just getting water. Ha ha!
Ah, damn it.
I like how it's fun too because Mason is blind, so he didn't realize I wasn't on screen anymore.
No, I could sense it.
He's like, no, I could sense a stilling, a calming in the force. The turd was briefly out of my hair.
Nobody was talking, so Zach mustn't be here.
That
Yeah.
hurts, Mason.
Piss him off. Piss him off.
That hurts. It hurts right in the feelies.
Mine and Zach's friendship is basically the foundation of it is taking swipes at one another.
Facts.
It's the foundation of every good friendship.
Oakley dokley. So, Joe, I believe you are sticking around for the full show, correct?
I am. How much longer is the full show? I don't even know.
Probably somewhere.
Neither
about-
do we.
Neither, yeah. Yeah, we'll just, but I mean, we're gonna try roughly an hour more, but you know, there's
I'm
never,
here, man. I'm plugged in. Don't worry about it. Keep
there's
going.
never any telling. So, anyways, all right. So we have a segment that we occasionally do where it's kind of a segment that's you know, I carry, you know, like the rest of the show.
Yeah.
yeah. Would you like to lift the heavy things?
But
It's a segment where Zach shows that he's a white kid that grew up in the 90s.
oh yeah, facts. So, anyways, let's just get into it
in the '90s too, man.
with zero segue. Yeah, mic check 1 2. What it be, what it is, what it do. It's time for another rap review. Alrighty. So,
Hit it with it, Zaydog.
I put this together yesterday, so if it sucks, you're gonna have to excuse me because you know I do things last minute and you know, fly by the seat of my ass, par for the course. Because
Excuses.
you know what, Mason? That's fair.
He was like, "Oh, where's my fuck you?"
I'm thirsty for the fuck you. It's my life force.
The necrotic ravages of the fuck you.
I'm sustained by darkness. I need the negativity. All right, so Joe, have you heard of the Savior series by Jenna Moreci?
I have not. No.
Oh, darn it! You know what I just realized? I need to. I had our thing frozen because I didn't have the thing up, so our camera feeds were frozen. But that's my fault. You guys don't need to worry about that. That's my incompetence, of which there is much. Alrighty. So if you have not heard of the Savior series, this is gonna be kind of out of nowhere for you. But she's a authortuber over on YouTube, and she wrote these good dark. Well, she calls them dark fantasy, but really they're just kind of like fantasy. Like, they're not actually that dark. There's definitely some darkness, but these days they don't quite pass muster as dark fantasy, considering the curve that is now in existence.
Yes.
But anyways, I like to wrap reviews of certain things, and so that's what we're doing. So this is the Savior's MC. Audio coming through, Kate?
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Oh, you're fucking with me.
No, I'm not.
Oh no.
No.
Hang on. Do.
We are having technical difficulties. Mason, quick, give him a beat.
Not.
How about now?
Nope.
Nope.
You're kidding me.
No.
Oh my god. No.
We apologize for the technical difficulties. Vanilla Ice Z is having technical difficulties.
How dare you label me so painfully yet so accurately? Well, hey Mason, have you consumed the Savior series, by the way?
I have not.
You have not, huh?
Like I say, I don't read that much fantasy, especially because all the audiobooks I listen to with Lee, and she's not into fantasy, so we tend to stay away from that sort of thing. It is something that I want to try and tackle at some point though, because Jenna seems cool as fuck. So
Jenna's definitely very chill.
and I always I do consume her content and I take her advice. So I should really go and read one of her books to see if she actually knows what the fuck she's talking about before I take her advice.
Right.
Yeah, just for shits and giggles, right?
I do not know.
I'll give you a beat if you want a beat.
I just can't figure out why it's not. Okay. No, that's not it.
No. It's all good, baby, baby. No? Okay. I tried, man. He wasn't picking up on it.
I could, to be quite honest, I couldn't hear you because I had my music on in the background while I was trying to sort the audio.
It was a little BIG for you. Notorious BIG. I got Biggie Smalls for you. It wasn't working.
Oh, okay. Okay, Kate.
This is entertaining content that you tune in for.
Can you hear it now, Kate?
No.
Nope.
Son of a bitch. This is very aggravating.
So, do you
Zach, are you not the kind of fella that can do it a cappella?
No, I could. It just does not work without. It's not the same.
Is it on the third tier of stuff?
So, Joe, while they're sorting that out, tell me, how did you come up with the names for your characters? Do you have a process for naming, or is it just something where you come up with things?
Yeah, so Damus, because he's a seer, he's a prophet, I took the last part of Nostradamus and made it Damus. You know, so the main character is actually, the last part of Nostradamus. I just chopped it off there. And then Grey Taurus, who's the villain, I took that name out of a former Dungeons and Dragons villain that I had created 15 years ago. And I just always thought that Grey Taurus the Mad sounded like a name for a villain.
That is a badass name.
Yeah, and then one of the other, there's several other protagonists. The first is a guy named Sir Ritter of Vulcaneer, and Ritter in German means knight, and his father's name is Herzog Vulcaneer, and Herzog means duke. So I was just playing a lot. I come from a complete American family. Like half of my family's off the boat German, the other is off the boat English. So I get to it's a total American family. Like I said, you should see us at Christmas. It's kind of fun. It's a lot of tea and you just kind of fight through. So I've been able to kind of memorialize some of my own history and picking names and stuff like that, and little plays on words and stuff. So that's kind of where I come up with them. And I also like to take words and make them names. So like I have future characters that are named Feral, like a feral cat. Her name is Feral Nor, or Sinister of Clan, Blood Axe is Sinister with a Y at the end. I screw around with it and just have a good time of finding ways of naming characters, and I like to have a story behind them. And some of them are just Easter eggs for people that have been nerdy with me and played other tabletop role playing games over the years and Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that. And I've taken their characters and put their names into the book too for them to find when they read it. I always thought that would be it's an eye popper for them. So as long as
Yeah, just a nice little Easter egg.
yeah, I like that kind of stuff.
Okay, tell me if you guys can hear it now.
Yeah, it's something that I've. So, full disclosure, I haven't been writing all that long. I only really started doing it properly about 8 months ago. So I'm a true novice at this point. Naming is something that I've been. I don't want to say struggling with, but I get really inside my own head, and so I spend way too long on it. I'm currently writing volume 4 of The Bleeding Ground, and I was trying to name a character, and I swear to God, last night I spent 45 minutes looking through surnames to try and find the right, that doesn't have the right meaning, and that sort of thing. And it's something that I need to get better at, because really what I should have done is just moved on and come back to it a bit later, but
yeah, but
my brain doesn't let me do that.
That's the meat on the bone, right? I mean, you've got your main characters have to fit. They have to sound right in your head, and if they do, it doesn't matter how goofy the name is or however you're doing it. Like I had one person tell me that you shouldn't call him Grey Taurus the Mad, because the Mad is a mental health issue, and I was like, no, his name's Grey Taurus the Mad. He's mad, he's crazy, right? And that's the whole point of it. So I wasn't gonna cancel my character before anyone ever read it. I haven't gotten anything like that since, so it's just it's a title.
And as someone who
and besides,
is-
in that sort of world, that's not something that those characters are thinking about too.
Right. No, and it's I think it describes the situation and
Hello.
it breeds fear into that part of a fantasy that is darker than the others. Like he's I mean, once you get to know him, he's he wasn't always this dark, and things had happened to him that transpired that made him crazy. And if you live with the pain that he lives with every day, that's going to drive you nuts. So that's why he's worse than that.
Can you guys hear me
I think
now?
it's funny that eventually
Can't hear you.
you start out with these names that are slightly outlandish, but you get used to them. So, one of the two main characters in The Bleeding Ground, who is the villain, his name is Valdus Doyle, which
That's not a bad.
to start with, it felt really strange, but now that I've been referring to him for the last few months, I actually really like it.
Yeah,
And it means
good name.
powerful stranger, which once you meet Valdus, you'll see that that's an apt name for him.
See, and that's what I did with Damus. I was thinking what's a cool name for a young seer, and I was thinking Nostradamus. So I said, well, it's just going to be Damus. Let's take the end.
Yeah, I think that's really clever, actually.
Caitlin?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay. Jesus Christ. Here I
It's
am.
okay, dude. I carried the show for you while you were doing that.
I've been chiming in. I've been chiming in with comments every now and then. No one heard me.
I was going to start dancing in a minute. That would have been horrible for everybody. You want to talk about losing viewership.
Okay. Can you hear the music now?
Yes.
Finally. Jesus Christ. This is the kind of high quality professionalism we're bringing to the table, folks.
Gosh. Okay.
Oh man.
Soon we will.
Maybe turn it up a little bit, though.
Oh yeah, for sure. I had it quiet just to test. Okay, yeah, and thank you, Mason, for stalling for me.
You dropped the ball, I picked it up. It's alright, mate. Don't worry, I got you sorted.
I believe you. All right, let me fix my screen here. Boom. Okily dokily. So, I do want to show people what beat I'm using, just so I don't get accused of not giving people their credit. So, over on YouTube, this is the beat that I'm using. It says it's a free beat, as you can see in the title there. So, don't no one accuse me of, like, you know, not not having permission to use it. Alrighty. So, now we can, at what is this, like 10 minutes in, we can finally get to the 1 minute rap review.
Hey, it's okay.
It's like Zach's sex life. All that work, but so little pleasure.
Mason, I told you to take those cameras out of my bedroom.
But I'm making so much money.
OnlyFans, right?
Alrighty. More like live streams to Grinder. This is the Savior's MC. Step into the Savior's world. Welcome to Thesson, I'll be your MC. I'll be addressing all these guys who signed their life away for a chance at the divine. Pale-skinned goddess, heart full of darkness, savior of the land. Raise this kingdom out of a desert, desolate sands. Savior's tourney, one hero's journey, destined for the top. Toby climbing over the bodies of his friends that dropped. Regals and beasts, blood sports and feasts, patricians of the land. Vile machinations ruining the stations like the sovereign plan. Started out a farmer, brown-eyed charmer, fancy with brush strokes. Now the brush and blade, about to run a fade, paint him in a grave, making beast behave, a stab and a slice, roll of the dice, whose life will cease. Leader looking on, chosen of the sun, magic in her hands, know she got a plan, true power, manifesting. Toby, a hero, sovereign, a zero, Cyclops can eat a cock. Brontes, the bastard, stinks like a bastard. And by the way, Cosima is a vile whore, and Brontes probably got the HIV from her.
Yeah, that was worth waiting for. I thought that was pretty damn good. I'm not joking, man. You know, the Cyclops can eat a cock. I mean, I never thought I would hear those words strung together in the same sentence in my entire life. That was good, man. That was good. And I got a nice synopsis of the story. I'm in. I'll read that now because of your 1 minute rap. And I'm not joking. I thought that was really well done.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, that whole section with the grave rhymes was actually really good.
I appreciate it. So Jenna has a fan contest going on for fan art right now, and I was thinking of submitting this, and I might flush out the bars a little more, make it a little longer, just to get a little bit more flow in there. But I am really happy with
I have a
first
feeling.
section.
I have a feeling that if you recorded that properly and lay the beat behind it, I don't know why, but I feel like Jenna would kind of dig that.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
With the way her personality is, I don't know why, but I can just see her being. I'm trying to think of the word that I can use, because the one that I would normally use is not necessarily appropriate. Should act like a fool is what I'll say. What? Sorry, Kate.
Use it anyway.
Among is what we would call it.
Among.
From where I'm from. Among. M-O-N-G. You're being among. And now I've said it like 5 times.
I don't even think we know what that word means over here on this side of the pond. So, anyways, this has been... Yeah, mic check 1, 2. What it be, what it is, what it do. It's time for another rap review. But yeah, I might clip that out and send it into Jenna's fan art contest and just see if she likes it.
That'd be fun.
I feel like there's some bars there. I have been known to spit a bar. So, unless someone has a more creative segue than this, I'm going to just move into the next segment. Everyone cool with that?
I thought that rap was very rebellious of you.
That was a good try, Mason. A for effort, buddy. Welcome to Rebel Poet Society.
It's Rebel Poet Society.
So, Mason,
Society.
do you want to do your thing first?
Yeah, sure.
All right, bet.
Full disclosure, people. Usually, I write decent poetry. This was something that I threw together today because Zach sent me the show map at the last minute yesterday, and I only just realised that we were doing Rebel Poet Society this week, so I scrambled. This one is for author Lauren Adele, because she's been doing daily writing prompts on her channel for the April Promptathon, and she said that we should write a poem about bad luck, and this is what I came up with. I stumble, tumble, lay there crumpled, in a ball and then I fumble, looking for something to help me stand, and that is when I find a hand. It's a man that I don't know, and I feel my cheeks begin to glow. Why did I come out in the snow? Am I really that desperate to score some blow? Who am I kidding? Yes, I am. I snort the stuff whenever I can. That's why I'm out at 11 p.m. when the temperature is -10. Thanks a lot, I tried to say, but he's already gone. He's running away. I hear a sound, turn around, and then my heart begins to pound. I just have time to say, oh fuck, when I'm hit by a sliding truck. My mum always said that I had bad luck.
Fine.
You say that's bad. I say that is a masterwork.
It's the silliest poem I've ever wrote.
I like that, Mason. That was funny.
So
That was
great.
funny. Joe, your thoughts?
I would say it started out in a different direction than it ended. You know, I thought the bad luck was out of the way in the beginning and the man was going to help you up, and then there was going to be a lovely friendship that comes from that. And instead, the dude bailed on you, left you in the road, and you got hit by a truck. So that is bad luck. I mean, thematically, I think it works. But I thought the bad luck was you slipping originally, and you caught me. You got me sleeping on that one. It was going to be too big of bad luck in the same. And I thought, you know, for being under the pressure. I mean, look, pressure cooker of not knowing that this was going to be, you know, Rebel Poet Society Day. That ain't bad. So, you know, I think you could refine it. You know, maybe go back into the lab a little bit and tweak it. But I think at the end of the day, that was better than I could have done in the time frame in which you did it. So well done.
Thanks, Joe.
Sure.
Zach will tell you that suspended misdirection, as he calls it, is something that I really like to do.
Yes. Yes, Mason. He absolutely loves. He presents you with two paths right away. And then he utterly convinces you you're going down the right one. But then all of a sudden, this omniscient narrator picks you up off the left path and puts you at the end of the right path without ever having treaded a fucking foot of it. And you're just like, how the fuck did I get here? That's Mason's bread and butter technique. That motherfucker is so good at that. Caitlin,
I got him a few weeks ago, Joe, by... So, in Zach's novel, The Garden of Lies, he has a romantic pairing that I was shipping, and he decided to go the wrong way. He decided to go the wrong way and broke my heart, so I came back with a poem that absolutely tugged at his heartstrings and then I hit him with the final line that was basically like, "Why did you do? Why did you choose this pairing?"
Well, it works, right?
It was brilliant.
It was a good poem.
His reaction was just outrage and heartbreak at the same time, and it was delicious.
No, that's man law. You're supposed to elicit that from your fans. I worked well.
Zach, did you bring anything?
I did not, as a matter of fact. I was going to fish through just randomly until I found something to put up. You know, I have plenty of stuff just sitting around. But
The
do you?
back catalogue.
I do. Do you have anything, Kate?
No, I do not.
Okay. So what I'll do here is I'm going to grab one out of my box of treasures, which is what I call everything I write.
It'll probably be some poem that's in the style of another poet that he read one time and managed to emulate. For reference, Joe, that's a
Emulate
jab
the
because
Rise
he a few weeks back he read The Raven by Poe.
by Edgar Allan Poe. Well
yeah,
done.
the next day he talks to me on Messenger and he's like, "Oh, check out this poem that I wrote," and it's just like that exact style from The Raven, but done his way but done perfectly. And it was the first time that he'd ever read The Raven, but he managed to like hijack the style.
There's nothing
And
wrong with that. That's called deriving inspiration from someone.
Oh no!
Oh man.
Oh no! I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I was just raging with envy.
I love you, Mason. See,
I think you're
what's-
all right.
Nothing strokes my ego like when Mason is like, "I hate Zach. He's so talented. God damn it."
How hopeful. How hopeful. How hopeful.
Is that a Muppet? Someone step on a Muppet? What happened there?
Oh man,
That was Smeagol. He drops in sometimes.
Sometimes.
oh my God! You know what? That almost makes me want to send Caitlin this. Yes, Caitlin. Okay, I'm gonna send you this,
God.
and you're gonna
Okay.
read it as Smeagol. Okay,
Oh no. Okay.
that's what we're
Okay.
The
doing.
only thing better than Zach's poetry is Zach's poetry read by Kate as Smeagol.
Hey, you know what? It could be worse. It could me reading one of the sexier scenes from my book in Smeagol.
Oh God.
Yeah, but I really want to hear that.
Oh man, this is definitely found a different rate.
Oh my gosh.
All right, Kate. Open it in Messenger. Enjoy.
Aw. All right.
Are you really going to do this in the Smeagol voice?
Yes.
Problem.
Yes, she is.
Here we go. Oh boy.
You're going into
Oh,
shit
when
mode.
she does the laugh
Remember.
in the voice, it kills me.
Together. Okay. Alright. My old scars limit my movement. They ache horribly when stretched, and they run too deep to ever fully heal. So it is a cruel irony that love is what stretches them. Love for the precious, okay? That affection tugs on them so readily. Even your attention made them itch. I scream silently when you touch me, because deep down my scars knew you would give me another, and my scars haven't been wronged yet. So I sit here in my existential agony, missing your touch,
wishing I had been wrong, and hating that I don't get to be mad at you for leaving. I would leave me too, if I'm being honest, because I would see that I am broken, and I'm sure that you saw it too. So fare thee well, aloha, auf Wiedersehen, sayonara, and all those goodbye things. I hope you end up happy. I doubt I ever will.
You know, that wasn't bad, except for the end. The end kind of fell off.
I got a little sad.
And all those goodbye things.
Oh, baby, goodbye. You know, it's
All those goodbye things.
That's like something I'd write. It's like,
but
Now-
I'm just
and
saying,
all that.
the
Does
Smeagol
anyone
voice
get that
attitude in the beginning-
reference? Does anyone get that reference?
No.
Ah, you people, you uncultured swine. That's Aristocats! It's Aristocats! Aloha!
Oh, sure.
Auf
Sure.
Wiedersehen.
We're uncultured swines for not getting an aristocrats reference. You're an author on who writes fantasy who hasn't read Lord of the Rings yet. Don't you ever call me an uncultured swine again, you bastard.
Oh man.
But so you like that, Joe? You thought that was good edgelord poetry then?
I thought the meat of the poem was great. The Smeagol voice is classic. That deserves its own Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, whatever it was. Save for the fact I couldn't stop laughing for the first several stanzas of the poem, you know, and then the end left a little bit to be desired. But I saw where the end was going, and I thought altogether, you know, I got it. I stopped laughing when I was listening to the words, and the words started to register, and I was like, okay, I got past the Smeagol thing. Yeah, I don't think she's going to do Kermit the Frog or whatever. But you know, I will say that, like, the meat of the
My
poem
scars.
was
Limit
good.
my movement.
You could use a little tweaks here and there, but hey,
My hair, Mr. Dude.
They ache horribly with stretch.
no, It's not as good
For
as
me, it's the mental image.
or whatever. It's not as good as Cyclops eating a cock. That's here today. Everything else lives beneath it. I'm sorry.
Right.
For me, it's the mental image of Smeagol coming across a book of poetry and just reading from it. It's just,
Yeah.
just the faces that he would pull as he was reading. It's,
Oh
What
my
I
God,
love
are you saying-
is I just picked this poem at random, and but it actually like works with the Smeagol voice. Like you could actually see him saying this stuff about losing the ring. Like,
Yes. Oh my God. Oh. Well, I do have something. This is a bit out of context, but
yeah, but context is for pussies.
that's
So.
great.
of adventurous affirmations. Context
Yeah.
is for pussies.
Context. Perfect. Just like don't be do anal.
Don't be anal, do anal. That's right. We need that on a shirt.
Yep, it needs to be on a shirt, and we're gonna make little placards for people to stick them to like their bathroom mirrors, so that's like the first thing they see in the morning. Because affirmations.
Stop crying and just fucking do it.
That's right.
Adventurous affirmations. Stop crying and just fucking do it. Don't be anal, do anal. Context is for pussies. They work so well one after the other. It's almost like we planned it.
I need a t-shirt with all of those just down the back.
Yes. Oh my God.
We run a, and then this one right after, we want a tightly loose ship around here. It just keeps getting better. Oh man.
The ever expanding adventurous lore.
Yes, exactly. We just keep adding things.
As it should. That's how you do it, fam. That's how you do it.
Just keep adding ingredients. Makes it better.
Context is for pussies.
Fucking love that.
So what is your out of context poem then?
My
Wild Kate.
poem. Okay. Thou art not a desert, but a forest lay desert by a raging fire, of the kind that scorches hillsides and salts roots, which to the naked, hungry soul appears desolate. Yet to those who have seen its kind before, know it was only decimate. For underneath the blackened earth lightly slumbers but does not sleep, new, more vibrant growth, hardened off by the passage of time, so no matter the toughness of the season, it will keep. Out of the ashes of the old will spring anew, watered by snow, rain, and rising dew, bringing forth gifts from those known to also be thieves, winds of change, sweeping away dross and dried leaves, erasing all memory of the fear and the burning. Do not lose hope. You may soon find your oceans of emerald returning.
Wait a minute, that was really fucking good.
Yeah.
What's funny is I've heard that poem before. She wrote that in response. Do you guys want to hear the poem that she wrote that in response to?
Yes.
That's really good. Yeah, I have that was stirring.
Thank
Yes.
I'm joking around. I mean, I'm not even laughing.
I cried
That
when
was
she
cool.
read that to me.
That was well done.
I'd say it's just another example of that thing that I pointed out before of the reverence that comes through in Kate's poetry.
Yes.
So Kate's the talented one of the group, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Ha ha ha.
Yeah, yeah.
ha,
Me,
ha,
me and
ha.
Zach are hack jobs, and Kate's the true artist.
So, Caitlin wrote that in response to, this was actually, me and Kate have this thing where sometimes we talk in poetry to each other in private messages, and I sent this to her. My oceans of emerald returning like a song of life being whispered into my ear, like the taste of summer limes on my tongue, like the color of life painted on my iris. How can something return to me when it never truly left? How can something come back to me when I never truly let it go? And how can something come back to me when it is truly gone? Are my oceans of emerald returning, or are false promises being written on the lips of those I trust? Am I being misled by specters of the past come to haunt the prophets of the future? Or is there truly hope that life might once again bloom in the gray corridors of my sapphire blue soul? Will my eyes ever gaze into the oceans of emerald again? I hope so.
That's really good too.
See, this is why poetry gives you a true insight into who somebody is, because Zach puts on this sandpaper abrasive personality thing, but then you read his writing and especially his poetry, and you see the sensitive heart under the surface, and same with Kate with her poetry, where you get the romantic reverence, and then you get my stuff, which is just sort of silly bollocks.
Hey, in your defense, Days Gone By is immaculate and profound.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what's days gone by?
Oh, man. Okay, so we did it last week, but just for you, Joe, we're going to do it again. Let me play
All right.
this for you.
Yes.
It's better than the guy getting hit by the truck in the snow.
Yeah, oh, God. I mean, the thing... Mason's comedic writing is funny, but Days Gone By, it is Mason's equivalent to what me and Kate just read. I mean, this is some of his top tier
Now-
stuff.
Now, do you prefer Days Gone By or Without Reason?
Oh, they're both so. Oh, that's a tough one, Mason. Like when you say prefer, can you give me something a little bit more specific?
Wait. No, I'm not sure what specifically I meant. Which one would you listen to more?
Days Gone By. It strokes that part of my soul just right. Without Reason is very good, but it it's from the perspective of someone who's truly evil. It's gripping and it's compelling, and the language is good and the artistry is immaculate. But Days Gone By is just as good, but it's not pure evil. So you guys can hear this, right?
As I stand here,
Right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I could hear it.
Okay, excellent.
as I stand here on the parapet, I'm confronted by a sight that I'll never forget, and I'm bludgeoned by the weight of this empty silence. I see one tiny solitary shoe sitting solemnly on the steps, in a pool of blood long since dried. I'm sickened by the violence that implies. The empty tiered seating sweeping in orderly rows to the field below reminds me of the world that I used to know. If I listen closely, I can almost hear it, still bouncing off these barren walls, the screaming, chanting, cheering roar left over from the world before. I can almost smell it, almost taste it, the memories so crystal clear, so far away and yet so near. Hot dogs, nachos, donuts, beer, things I haven't tasted in years. We gathered here, in days gone by, to listen to music beneath open skies, to feel free, like we could fly. But never again will those seats be packed. The world before isn't coming back. Disaster struck and that was that. Our curtain call, our fade to black. The end of the world, it came so fast. What we built could never last. Now amidst the rubble, dust and ash, all that remains are the ghosts of the past.
That's really good.
I'm actually really glad that you played that, because it would have been really disappointing for Joe to go away having heard you two doing great poetry, and me like spitting out this like bollocks nonsense poem that I came up with in like 2 hours.
And who did the piano in the background?
That was just something that I found. I use a service called Epidemic Sound, which is royalty-free tracks, but I spend an inordinate amount of time picking out the music.
Yeah, that was paced well. Not just the music, but poem itself. I thought it was really descriptive, and you're in the moment. Like you feel like you're there the entire time, right? I mean, and all jokes aside, I know there's laugh since we started, but really, that was the last. You guys are all three of you. That was talented stuff. And I'm impressed. I can't tell you which one I liked more. They were, all three of those were really good. Really good. You guys were.
Thanks.
Well, we sincerely appreciate
Adventurous
that.
Publications takes a collective bow.
We are Team Adventurous, and sometimes we do the gooder writings.
And sometimes we be serious.
Yeah, sometimes we do the words gooder around here.
That was back to back to back.
Yeah. Like I said, man, what I love about Mason's work is that Mason, he doesn't use as much of the he doesn't wax as poetic as me and Kate a lot of the time, but he has this way of using more mundane language to achieve the same level of artistic effect and depth. And that's why I call my friend the Bard of the Common Man. And he is just... I don't think in all seriousness, I don't think I could emulate your style, Mason, because I always have a tendency to elevate my language when I'm trying to be that level of deep and that level of artistic. And the fact that you achieve that with such a common man's vernacular, it's unique, Mason. It really is. And I don't think I could capture the essence of it. I really don't. You know what I mean, Kate? Like, it's a flavor I haven't encountered before, because all the poets I've studied and all the poets I really like use that elevated, high English language. But Mason is like, no, I'm gonna be just as deep as you and say it in normal people words, you pedantic fuck.
That's exactly how I'd phrase it.
Pedantic fuck. Yeah.
You ex fuck is the best insult. I did that to Zach last week, because he said that he wishes that it was politically and socially acceptable to punch a blind man. And I said, well, I think it's actually less politically and socially acceptable to not punch me because I'm blind, you ableist fuck.
Hey, man. You had your hands up. It's go time.
Exactly.
He had his hands up. I thought he was trying to throw smoke. He was looking for the door.
He was reaching for me over the counter.
He was reaching out to get his change.
In all fairness, though, Zach, there's no way that I could emulate your style either. But I think that's what is beautiful about writing, is that there's just a little bit of the person in every piece of writing. And I think the fact that each person's style is individual is just what makes it so exciting.
100%. 100%. I said this in my review of Pay's book, Chasing Marilyn Monroe. And something that I actually got this from Rick and Morty of all places, but it's profoundly true. All writing is autobiographical.
Mhm.
And I think that's largely true, because even if it's not directly about the person's life, that's you know that came out of their brain, and so it gives you a direct insight into how they think, the way their brain works, what they're capable of coming up with. And poetry, you see that poetry is one of the forms of writing that best expresses that. It really is. And that is one of the reasons that I love poetry. You know, growing up, you never would have suspected, if you met me as a kid, you never would have suspected that I would be a guy who would grow up and write, poetry. I ran around with sticks and swung them at things and broke shit and jumped off high places and constantly screamed incoherently. I couldn't read or write until I was 10.
Yeah, but you're one of the. Everybody on this call is creative, right? And one of the things I've learned is that even though I like to write, it's given me appreciation of other forms of art too. And I might not be a poet, or I might not have a canvas and a pen or paint or anything like that, but in the end, you appreciate, because you're right, it's coming from someone else and they're seeing it the way that they see it. And the moment that you can identify with that person becomes your friend. It's like, oh yeah,
Right.
like I get what you wrote, I understand that, and it doesn't need to be explained. Like none of those poems needed to be explained. You felt the emotion, you got where you were looking through their eyes, and it just, I think that's the kind of thing you take away from it. From me stepping away from my day job and doing this kind of stuff at night and weekends, it's like, wow, like it's a different switch that goes on, and So it doesn't surprise me that you've dabbled in other forms of art, because as a creative, I mean that goes into hand in glove.
Yeah.
To be fair, though, you say that you might not have, paint, but at the same time, you still definitely have the ability to paint a picture just with words.
Right.
That opening to that prologue was crystal clear in my mind.
Right.
You took me to that place, and I think that is that's a skill that I've always admired. That's the reason why I enjoyed Tolkien when I read Lord of the Rings, is because those scenery descriptions, they take you right there into Middle Earth, and that's a place that, is crystal clear in my mind. And I not to blow smoke up your ass too much, but I genuinely did think that
Blow the smoke. It's okay.
that had the that opening to the prologue had that same energy of like, right, okay, this place, I'm there, I can see what's happening. Literally, the only sense he didn't really include was smell, and I'm sure that you will include that in a scenery description in the book somewhere. So
We didn't get taste either.
Yeah, well, not yet.
maybe not.
We skipped around something, right?
But I was gonna touch on that too, Mason. That is a good point that we missed in the actual Prose Police segment. The cross engaging of senses, and a beautiful thing about the English language is sometimes we can use words that are typically associated with one sense to cross-reference with another sense, and that is really good at creating this network, this matrix of sensatory understanding in our brain, and we can just create the most vivid picture of the world in our head. And that, you're right, Mason, that opening did a pretty damn good job of that. And what was really good about it is it was done succinctly. Brevity is the essence of wit, folks, and that was done in a very short paragraph, but with the scene was still very clear. So
I take a bow, but I'm sitting down.
I feel
Alrighty.
like we sort of stumbled headfirst into We Are a Genius.
Yeah. Have we?
Well, not quite really, Mason, because we're still talking about like the poetry of the writing, and so we're still and our We Are a Genius topic doesn't really have anything to do so much with what we've been talking about so far. However, let's wrap up Rebel Poet, and I'm thinking I'm gonna propose something to you guys after this stinger. Now, I don't want to hold you guys captive here forever.
Uh-huh.
And I know people got places to be, butt plugs to insert. But what if? But what?
No, not here. Not here.
Okay, so that's just me. Fair enough.
What?
But
It
what
was
if?
at the beginning of the thing. He said plug yourselves.
Kate with the callback. What if we do a quick, just a little bit, oh shit, oh my god, I just spilled water all over. Oh my god, I'm such an incompetent boo. At least it's water. Oh man.
That's why you should wear pants, dude.
I am wearing pants.
Known Joe for 5 minutes and he's already trying to trick me. The trials and tribulations of a blind man.
Oh, Lunar!
Hey, Lunar, what's up, buddy?
Hey!
Lunar, you are awesome.
You're awesome. How are you, darling?
Only beautiful people on my screen. And Zach, what the fuck? He's right. I'm majestic.
Excellent.
Alrighty, so what I was going to
that was
propose here
ace.
is, why don't we do a quick, how would you describe that?
Woo!
Okay.
Impromptu, how would you
All
describe
right.
it? You.
How would you describe that?
Alrighty, so Joe, let me give you the premise of this segment.
All right.
So what we do here is the audience or anyone in the group on the call gives anyone else a subject. It can be a poetic subject or a mundane subject. So for example, a mundane subject, brushing your teeth, taking the trash out, cleaning the dishes. Or a poetic subject like burying a loved one, or painting a rainbow, or the birth of the universe. You know, something that has innate poetry to it. You take one, you take the poetic thing and you make it mundane, or the mundane thing and you make it poetic. I love doing this segment because I get to show off. So...
Yeah. This is a segment Zach likes to call I Rule, Mason and Kate Drool.
Now,
This segment
you said
has
it,
been
not me.
specifically designed to show off Zach's strengths and highlight his friend's weakness. Bear witness.
Hello, Miss. I'm
man.
Lunar, a random that just popped up in the
Hello,
stream some
Mr.
weeks ago.
Hilliard. I'm Lunar, a random that just popped on in the stream some weeks ago.
But you're not random to us, Lunar. You're part of
Howard.
Team Adventurous now, buddy.
Thanks for watching this.
He actually found us because of my fitness streams that I do. I stream my workouts when I go to the gym, and
You
he's.
wear pants for that too?
I wear what?
You wear pants for that too?
No, I don't.
And that's why the audience finds it so exciting.
It's really disturbing when he does the treadmill segment.
So someone hit me or someone else with a subject, or I can hit someone else with a subject if no one wants to drill me.
Okay.
No homo.
Make a manhole cover poetic.
Like the manhole cover itself?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, yeah, just the manhole cover and what it does.
Okay. Every day, I get up out of my bed and I put on my jeans, my boots, and I button up my shirt. And I get in the van with all my equipment. It's a hard life men like me live. But damn it, we're the ones who make this city go round. I drive out to the first sight of the day, and there it is, in the road. A portal to another world. A thing that covers up the vast, unknown darkness. All these people, they walk by, drive over it, never aware of the horrors hidden by the cover. There's things down there. Things beyond your imagination. I've seen them crawling in the darkness. I've seen them whispering, skittering, haunting. But the manhole cover, it protects these people from those things. It keeps them locked inside. But I have to dislodge the cover and crawl down into the muck. I see things down there. And I just can't help but be so grateful that I only have to do this for a certain amount of time every day. And when I'm done, I get to crawl back up and secure the cover and put the lid on the abyss for another day.
I hate you so much, man. I just hate you so much.
was Streamlabs too close. Don't worry, if you were stream, that is still happening.
What is happening?
Folks.
Oh, the
That is-
horniest chat,
Shit.
NA.
That's more than I ever needed to know about Zach's ass.
And we're back.
I love how JV is...
He poured water all over himself, so I wonder if Luna would have liked
just uncomfortably, just visibly uncomfortable, our guest, after hearing that.
Oh my goodness.
Caitlin,
And
you have to...
Owen-
Caitlin, you have to screenshot that for me.
Yes.
Oh my god, that is hilarious.
Gonna frame it.
Yeah, I am gonna frame it. That's hilarious. The bakery company that I call my butt.
Buns of steel.
poetic. Give him credit.
Oh man.
There
Okay.
you go. There's another Rat Guts album. Buns of Steel.
Yes.
Buns of steel.
Oh my god.
So, got you guys hosted. Oh, thank you so much, Owen. I hope you have a good sleep, sir.
Owen, you are awesome.
He really is. Everyone, I assume you got him shouted out, Caitlin. You did shout him out.
Yep, I did.
Okay.
I did.
Good.
Okay. Ooh.
She's on it like a condom.
Maybe.
Oh my god.
Oh man.
Of all
On
the
it
things
like a
you could
condom.
compare me to, Mason.
Right. She's far more interesting than a plastic sleeve that prevents you from having fun.
Right.
There you go. Make a condom poetic, Zach. No, don't. Don't.
Okay. Now that's your challenge, Mason. As punishment, you must make a condom poetic.
Oh, that's good.
Ah.
Okay. Really?
Hey,
You walked yourself into that one, sir.
She
I-
did.
I thought we were friends, right? And then this week you set up that prank on me, and now you I thought we were tight, Kate.
We are.
I think someone has to do poems with a condom.
Oh, damn it.
Come on, man.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a poem, luckily, because I'd be absolutely fucked if it was a poem.
It just has to be poetically expressed. You can do it, Mason. I believe in you.
Lunar says, "Come on, Mason, you can do it."
Do or do not.
I,
Try. Come on.
I prepare to go on my latest adventure, a deep dive into the greatest pleasure. I have everything I need, except one thing. I need my shield, my protection, the thing that will keep me safe from the diseases of this unknown land. I know not whether to travel to this place, and my gut tells me that I should not. But it is irresistible, and I have no willpower. That is why they kill me. That is why they call me Greg the Weak. I will not be able to resist the temptation of this woman, and so I need it. The humble condom. The greatest protection against the unknown.
That was phenomenal. Well played.
Mama spicy meatballs.
Buy my book, Garden of the Unknown.
I do not, JV. I don't think you have a YouTube channel, do you?
I don't. Not yet. I'm working on that right now.
Okay.
Ooh.
We'll
But
make
Joe,
sure.
all the cool kids do it.
We'll make sure to post a link to your books when we post this to YouTube.
That's cool. Thank you.
All right. Someone give me something poetic to make mundane, because Mason just loves that character.
I do love Mr. Mundane.
Mr. Mundane. And we're going to feature him in the comic. Oh, man.
It's so difficult because I know what you do now, so I think of something in my head and then I think, oh no, I know how I will do that. Like say, just I thought of like the raw power of a hurricane, but I know Mr. Mundane would just be like, it's a high pressure, it's a high pressure weather pattern that blows at approximately.
Okay.
Um,
Owen wants me to make watching a sunrise with your significant other mundane. Okay. The alarm clock went off at 4 a.m., and I promptly rose out of my bed. I put on my pants and a heavy jacket, as the spring mornings were still quite cold. I walked out my door and realized it was still dark, and that's when I had a light bulb moment. I went back inside and shook my girlfriend awake. At first, she was groggy and tried to slap me across the face. But that's when I realized that this was worth it. I continued to shake her, and then I told her, that's a problem.
What just happened?
My keyboard is having a seizure because I spilled water on it. Sorry.
Oh.
So anyways, I shake my girlfriend awake. Oh my god.
Yeah.
we are professionals.
Don't worry, guys. Stay tuned. Okay, I think we're back.
Okay.
We're back.
Sorry, mate. Okay. Give him a moment. Okay. Sorry. And we're back once again. Yes. So anyways, I woke my girlfriend up, and after basically fighting with her to put her clothes on, which is the opposite problem I normally have, we march outside, and we sit down on the bench just in front of my house. At first, she has no idea what's going on, which is typical. And the sun starts to rise. The colors in the horizon caused by the pollution are quite interesting, even though I know they're slowly killing me of cancer. Orange, red, purple, all mixing together just above the line of the ground. Slowly, the sun rises up into the sky. My girlfriend comments that she thinks it's quite pretty. Little does she know, I brought her out here to break up with her.
Oh my god.
Oh god.
Oh man. Oh, hey.
Mr. Mundane, no. Michael Mundane.
Oh my god. Lunar says, is just the beauty of Hilliard. He's so handsome. Twitch says, we can't have you. We are not worth it.
Get him off the platform. The sexy is too much. He'll overload the servers.
Is that why we keep going down?
Too many people looking at this mug. I mean, what am I supposed to do? Sorry, I'll be back next week, I'm certain.
Yeah.
Get the viewers.
And when he takes over the world, I'm the only one that's going to be able to fight him. Because I'm the only one that cannot see the beauty.
There's nothing to see here, Mason. You're missing nothing. In fact, it's probably better. That's I'm just being honest. You know, but thank you for Lunar for being kind.
Yeah.
Lunar is a little ball of sunshine and positivity.
Well, I can tell.
He's the team adventurous male cheerleader.
And we are
Since
here.
Hey, we could use more of those, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since we've both done poetic and you've now done mundane, should I do a mundane?
We could give Mason a mundane. Caitlin, oh,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of one because Mason made the death of a god mundane. What can I say to stump this guy in the realm of mundane?
Ooh. Joe, do you have any ideas?
So this is to take it from mundane to poetic, or for taking it from poetic to mundane?
From poetic to
From
mundane.
poetic to.
Um, hmm. How about the thrill of victory?
Ooh.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck that up. Go ahead.
So I'm standing there on the edge of this big field. There's bodies everywhere because there's been this massive battle. I think it's for control of the land or something like that, but to be honest, I'm just a hired grunt. And I don't really have that much skin in the game, so I haven't been paying that much attention. To be honest, I just like to kill people. So I was in luck when they started doing conscription to the army, and well, they gave me a sword and a shield, and they said, "Do you know how to use this?" And I said, "Fuck yeah, I do." And we marched, and we marched, and we marched, and then guess what? We marched a bit more.
You took that from me, and I love you for it.
And then we got to the field. I'd like to tell you its name, but honestly, I don't care enough to pay attention. And there's this other army, and there's just so many of them. And right there, I felt like running away, but I didn't. I stuck at it, and I ran in. I swung my sword around a bit, chopped some people's heads off, and our army ended up coming out on top. And now I've got this weird feeling in my stomach. Not really sure what it is, but I think it might be what some people would call the thrill of victory. Not sure. Not sure how to feel about it, to be honest. Usually I just kill for the sake of it. Not sure it's worth it if I'm actually getting something out of it.
Yeah.
I love how Mason takes us on these narrative journeys with these guys who are just like, just have no fucks to give.
I enjoyed that one, actually. That was my favourite one that I've had a chance to do.
That was good. And I love how you threw back to my thing from the last chapter where I'm like, we ran, and we ran. And this is just between us, but then we ran some more.
Hey, you never ended up doing the second reading you said you were going to do.
I know, I'm going to do it right after this, buddy. I'm so sorry. Yesterday got away from me, as most days do, because, you know, I'm incompetent.
I know the book's called The Garden of Lies, but you don't need to tell so many of them. Should have been called The Garden of Broken Promises. Or the Garden of Broken Solemn Vows.
Still salty about that one, eh, buddy? Lunar says...
I can't even remember what it was now.
Who needs LSD when Mason is already making me trip?
I love it.
I do have to admit, Mason, there was a bit of like Forrest Gump in medieval times.
I never thought of his character that way, but now I will henceforth always hear him saying that in Forrest Gump's cadence.
I just swung my sword and chopped off more heads. There's feeling in my gut. That was good.
The whole time, I was just thinking to myself, would Jenny approve of this?
My mum said that you never know what you're gonna get with life, and it's kind of like a box of chocolates. But I don't really get that because life's not sweet.
I mean, it's a bittersweet symphony that's life. You know, there's some sweetness to it.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Just a little.
Would you like to do one, Joe? Or
Yeah. You wanna take a
You
crack?
want to take a crack?
I'm up for anything. Go ahead.
All right, let's do it. I love putting my guests on a spot. All right. Take.
Man,
Take.
that's kind of an evil cackle guy.
I know that was not a pleasant laugh. That was like a I'm about to throw you a fastball and fuck you right over sort of laugh.
We got softball here, man.
Hey,
Don't-
Lunar,
don't-
do us a favor and rehost if you haven't already.
Yeah.
And Joe, I want you. And
And
people say,
people-
"Why I simp this man?"
People say, why do I simp for this man?
Oh, we love you too, Lunar. Joe,
They love.
I want you to take applying deodorant and make it poetic.
Oh.
That's cruel, man. That's cruel.
As the morning sun rises over the hill, I stir in my bed. I turn and smell something. What is it, something? I reach for the counter and find something to kill the odor, this odious stench. I don't have time for a shower. Oh, God, you're getting me on this one, man. This is good.
No, you're doing good, man. Keep at it. Keep at it.
Really quick, thank you so much for that gifted sub, Lunar. Means the world to us. Joe, proceed.
Proceed, yeah. Proceed with applying deodorant.
Poetically.
I crawl from the sack and reach to the counter. Struggling, fumbling, I find a plastic container, one that will save me from this odious stench. I crack the seal, lift my arm, and slide that beautiful smell up once, down a second time. I repeat and then rinse. How about that?
Not bad.
It's not
For
good.
being a-
It was bad, but hey, look, I was open minded. I gave it a shot.
Hey,
I
no,
think you did pretty good there, man.
it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad for being an on-the-spot, out of your butt thing. That was not bad.
My bakery. This will always be known from now on.
Your bakery. That's right.
My bakery.
Yep. Because that is where all the cake.
Baked starfish.
Only the highest quality starfish comes out of the Adventurous Bakery.
Exactly.
We specialize in forbidden
Durst
chocolate
reference, or
starfishes.
what the hell was that?
What?
A Fred Durst reference?
Oh, what? Calling it a
Chocolate
starfish?
starfish?
No, we can't tell you because context is for pussies.
Lunar, thank you so much for the biddies, bro. Your support means the world to us. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, for
Oh.
whatever reason, starfish is just how Zach and Kate refer to assholes.
Because it's hilarious. I mean, have you ever
Oh,
looked
yeah.
at a butthole? It looks like a starfish, but like infinitely more odd.
So Google
You know what?
chocolate
I actually haven't ever seen one.
A
Really?
butthole or a starfish?
well, think about it, Zach. Like, with the level of sight that I had when I could still see, I would have had to have been like an inch away, and even then, I wouldn't have been able to see the details. So the only way that I would ever have actually seen a proper butthole would have been to Google butthole, and that's not something that I ever felt like I needed to do.
And that is a great way to close out.
How would you describe that?
And Lunar says, "Well, are you sure you want to ask that to a person like me?"
amount of irreverence on this show. It's off the charts.
Yeah.
Listen, I would never tell anyone to watch this with their kids, and I would never tell anyone who is squeamish or prancy or prissy to watch this show. We get down in the mud because that's where the adventure happens.
Exactly.
I built a reputation for myself on YouTube as a nice guy. And then I made friends with these guys, and they brought me on this show, and now I can't pretend to be nice anymore.
Nope.
Oh man. So we're now going to move into the titular segment of the show. We're gonna hit up some serious intellectual discussions in a segment that we call
We are a genius.
So man,
Genius.
them there vampires and werewolves and shit. What's up with those?
Right. Yeah. Cause Joe, you were talking about in your preliminary screening interview with me, you said something about a vampire series, possibly.
Yeah, I started writing not because I wanted to write a fantasy adventure series. I started writing because I want to write a vampire novel. As stupid as that might sound, and as cliche as that might sound, it's my favorite thing. I will literally watch the cheesiest, corniest vampire, like Buffy even though I watched the show, but I'm talking about like original Buffy the Vampires. Anything that has a vampire in it, I'm a sucker for.
Mm-hmm.
I will buy a cereal that has a vampire on it. Whatever. It's just one of these bucket list things is to go to Transylvania and sort of see Castle Dracula. I think all that kind of stuff would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, down the road, even though it's out of a genre, I want to write a vampire novel. I actually have the name of it. It's going to be called Requiem of Sorrow, and I've got the plot for it all worked out. But
That's badass.
I'm kind of trying to. I'm much more familiar with the fantasy adventure genre, and I want to make sure that by the time I get to a point where I can write something that's a horror novel or a gothic horror novel or something that has, religious overtones in it, and it's set contemporarily as opposed to something that's set in a mystical realm that I've made up in my head. I want to make sure that I'm worthy of writing it. As stupid as that sounds, I want to get better. And when I get better, then I'm going to do that. I already know what it is. It's already mapped out. I've got the outline for it. I know exactly how the character, and it might end up being a little bit of a series if I play it right. So it's just, I'm a huge fan of it, and that's where I want to go with this one day.
So
you say that sounds stupid, but I actually know 100% what you mean. Because I have a novel planned called Blurry, which is a coming of age story that is sort of loosely based on my experiences as a teenager, growing up as someone with, sight loss. But it's not something that I feel I can pull off to the ability that I want to right now, because it's something obviously with the subject matter, it's something that's really important to me, and I want to nail it. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Right.
I completely understand what you mean.
Yeah, I absolutely want to nail it, and I not that the last keeper or any of the stuff is performance series. I'm trying to nail that too, but I also think that this vampire thing I've had in my head since I was a kid. I know exactly where I want to go with it. It's unique, and it has a little bit of like an exorcism sort of rolled in there too. So it's like it'll be fun, a little gothic, a lot of horror, a lot of darkness, and it's not going to be like any traditional vampire thing that I think people will see a uniqueness to it, which is I just want to screw it up. So I'm going to get better at my craft and then take my shot at it.
So that's a good segue for me too, because it just so happens, part of the reason that I chose this topic, there's actually a few reasons. One of them is I'm working on something with vampires in it as we speak. Me and Kate have been referring to it as our super secret project. There's a publisher right now that is holding a contest, and we're writing some stuff to participate in that contest. Would you? I know you're a busy man, but would you like to read what I'm working on when I'm done with it?
I would love to read it. Absolutely love to read it. And I've read I consume that stuff, so don't worry about it. If it has a vampire in it, I've either seen it, watched it, read it. I want to read it. It's on the to be read list, wherever it is. It's right in my wheelhouse. And so when you guys are ready to share it, I'd love to take
Excellent.
I
Excellent.
really wish Valdus was a vampire right now.
Honestly, Mason, Valdus gives off, I know he isn't, but he gives off vampire vibes. He really does.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. And to keep us on topic though, one of the main reasons that we're talking about this as our subject matter is because me and Kate have been noticing some signs that werewolves and vampires might be coming back into vogue. One of the reasons being that we think we're about to see Marvel's werewolf character on the big screen. And obviously, if that happens, as the MCU goes, the rest of the culture goes, at least right now. And so there will be a huge resurgence of werewolves. And we just got Morbius, which unfortunately Morbius kind of flopped, but I don't think they're going to abandon him because he is technically part of the MCU now. So I think that we might be seeing werewolves and vampires come back. And I would be really, really
100%
interested.
agree. I mean, Morbius as a character is a great comic book character.
Yes,
And
agreed.
I hate to say this because I'm both a Marvel and a DC fan. I know that's hard to say. I mean, people are usually on one side or the other. But I think if I had to choose, I would choose DC. But the Marvel movies have been better, or the DC comics I think have been better. That said, the Morbius character is one that I think people should gravitate to. I just think Marvel, they pump out so much stuff now, where before it was like, I can wait till the next year, for the next blockbuster, and then it was like, all right, well, they're gonna have 2 movies a year. Now they're having a movie a quarter, and they're introducing new characters, and they're introducing things that, like, they brought out the Eternals, and it's like, well, yeah, why weren't the Eternals there, to help out during the big battle? You know what I mean? Like, where did they disappear to? Or, WandaVision, as creative as WandaVision was, it was like almost overkill. It was just like, I just saw it in last summer. I mean, they did, the Scarlett Johansson movie, and it was just like, all right, well, that was the kind of, I guess they had to do that, and now they got, they Doctor Strange and Morbius, and it's like, it's like every 3 months, and it's almost like system overload, and I beat between them. I would appreciate them more. Right now, it's like it's almost like too much content. But they're just so much better. They've been better done than the DC movies as a whole. Although I did just see the Batman, and I thought that was better than the last couple, and I did really enjoy the Joker, even though I know that was sort of off of the DC world kind of thing, and I thought that was incredibly well done. But I hear you. I think Morbius is a character that they can do a lot with, that people will identify, and it brings in sort of horror fans into something that is typically more of a superhero kind of a genre. So I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, talking Morbius, some things they could have done in the movie, because like you said, in the comics, he's a very compelling character. Some things they could have done in the movie to make him better. They shouldn't have made him the one with the disease, because in the comics it was his wife, and they should have kept that component. They shouldn't have strayed away from his origin story, and they shouldn't have made the movie PG. Those are the 2 places they really hamstrung themselves, because the thing that made Morbius so compelling was he turned himself into this monster, not for himself, but for the woman he loved. And in the movie, he did it for like his brother type character, and so it was still an act of love. It was still, I'm trying to save someone I love, but call me a sucker for a good love story. I always, there's something unique and special about the love between a man and a woman. And I always resonate with that character motivation so much more than any other character motivation. And all you have to do is look at what stories succeed to know that most people feel that way.
Yeah, it's definitely a trope, but it's a trope that works. It becomes a trope because it works, right? And even if you go back to the original vampire story, Bram Stoker Dracula, it's really about Jonathan Harker and Williamina Murray, right? It's their love for one another that pulls them together. The difference is sort of like the de-religification of the vampire. The vampires were demons and devils and bad spirits, and there was a religious overtone to them. And then you start getting into the Hollywood style of them, and it's a disease, and it's passed along, through the bloodstream. And whether you're looking at any of like the I Am Legend stuff that Will Smith had done, or the Morbius stuff, it's a blood thing that we can take care of. There's a cure for vampirism, where the cure before was, here's some sunlight, you're going to hell, right? And there was no cure. It was, you had stepped over a line. It's sort of a mortal sin, but in today's day and age, it's kind of whitewashed, and you get this sort of like a PG-13 version of what a vampire really is. But to your point, someone who's trying to find the love of their life is willing to do that, and Dracula did it. Like, Dracula became Dracula based on stepping over that line because of what had happened. And the same thing holds true, and well, not the same, but a similar strain holds true with Morbius, is stepping across that line to save someone you love, and you're willing to mail in your own life to save someone else's, and that's always there's a dark romanticism about that.
100%. 100%.
So,
Go ahead, Mason.
something I wanted to bring up is in this day and age, what do you think the cultural and symbolic use of a vampire is these days? What place within culture do you think it holds?
That's an interesting question. I think part of it is, the old vampires back in, 1400s through 1900s was really, a way to explain bad things from happening. Like they if there was a curse, or there was a baby born that had a problem, or if, a child had disappeared or something had happened, it was a way of swearing that off. A vampire did it, right? Monster, this untouchable monster did it. And in some instances, there's even been, the connectivity to a Dracula living in a castle was, the idea that there was a vampire disease, which people had gotten because nobility shared the same blood. They would marry their cousins, and they had all these kind of strange, blood diseases as a result of that. So they couldn't see the sun. They kind of came as pale. They would lose blood, and so they thought back then they had to drink blood to restore the blood. And so you have these stories of Elizabeth Bathory, and you have these stories of that people. And so in the past, it was a way of explaining away something that's happened. I think culturally in the last 80 years or 70 years, it's become sort of a fun thing. There's something to be said about being eternal, something that you bring along, this immortality, this strength that everybody wants. And in all these movies, no matter what, unless you're Salem's Lot, everybody's right. It's the handsome guy meets the beautiful woman, and they not only are they sexy together, but they're also strong, and they can fly, and they can jump, and they wear leather, and they're wet all the time, and all that kind of stuff. And it's a Hollywood kind of thing, but it's about, I think, our desire to be immortal and our desire to be these creatures. But the curse of it is you have to kill, and so you see the Twilight of the world, and they try to kind of take that edge away. And Edward and his family, the Cullens, they eat deer, and they're in the life, and they're drinking blood because they don't want to kill anybody. I think that I think it's changed from us using it as a tool to blame something that we can't control to something now where it's more, our hopes and dreams are that we can live as beautiful creatures, and live these lives for hundreds of years. And I think there's something to be said there, but its place it's become more of an entertainment thing than anything. I think everybody would. I always, like I just said before, I trip over Vampire Diaries. I went to see Twilight by myself in a movie theater, like I don't want to me here, but or I'm sitting there reading it, and my wife's looking at me like, what are you what do you do when you're 13? And I'm like, well, it's a vampire. I'm doing research.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. And so there's a point where you just, you know, I think it was saturated for a while. It was the sexy thing to do for a while. And I think those things go in cycles. You know, I think they're going to, like the dystopian thing a few years ago. Everybody was writing dystopian novels, and
Yeah.
stuff. And now, you know, I think there'll be a lull, and people will call for that kind of stuff, and it'll come back. Same thing with vampires and werewolves, and I think they've been tied for better or worse together now because of all of the, you know, the underworld movies and other things that they kind of, you know, have pulled those things together
Hey,
where
Jimmy.
they're at war with one another, including a role-playing game. You know, Vampire the Masquerade.
Yeah.
They literally, you know, it's been, you know, embedded into the gaming system, and so I think just see them as, you know, as mortal enemies to one another, where in the past they really didn't have any connection. So I think Hollywood's helped to do that, and you know,
Well, it depends
I mean,
on the mythos you go by too. On the no connection one, that depends on the mythos you go by. Not to. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Were you wrapping up or? Okay.
Yeah,
I want to first of all welcome into the chat, Jimmy. How's it going today? And Booter says, "I'm doing research. I'm doing research." Wears a shirt that says Team Edward. But to Mason's question,
Go.
Okay, yeah, hold that thought, Mason, because I don't want you to forget. But I just want to answer. I want to throw in on this because I have some thoughts here that are very relevant to the discussion. So I think that a lot of what you just said is true, Joe. But I think that something that does still exist, something that evolved from the original vampire mythos, and it still is found in the culture, is this feeling that vampires embody darkness. That vampires are an embodiment of all that is wrong. And we see that in stories like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We see that, and we see both sides of the coin being played with in stories like Underworld. In Underworld, we have vampires that are just pure fucking evil. And then we have Selena, who's obviously someone who's trying to fight her worst nature and be, you know, not a total piece of shit. And
she does it so well in Dark Leather, all wet the whole time.
I know, God, isn't it the best?
So, and by the way, it's not Team Edward on your shirt; it's Team Alice. I mean, she was just so cute in that.
Yeah,
Alice is my girl.
I liked Jasper. I liked Jasper and Alice a lot. Yeah. But
I'm Team Jacob.
Yeah, same.
Muscly guy, motorbike. Oh.
I'm always wherever the werewolves are.
Man, you're all good.
Your wife should read my books.
She probably would.
But
so
anyways.
do you think that the proverbial defanging of vampires, do you think it comes from a cultural, maybe even a human desire to try and find a belief that evil isn't always evil and that good lies beneath? I mean, we've seen a lot of portrayals. Obviously, we had shows like Being Human, which I know the US had a version of, and we had our own version of first.
Better.
Yes, but we've seen portrayals of vampires as addicts as well as you know, like the Twilight versions too. I guess there's an addiction angle there too. But yeah, do you think it comes from us trying to show an understanding and a desire to believe that goodness will prevail?
Maybe a little. I think Zach hit on something earlier that gets to it too. Is you know, PG-13, right? The PG version of stuff more people see, and the more you push the envelope into R or NC-17, the less people. It narrows your audience, therefore it narrows your sales. You see a lot of this stuff in Hollywood where Morbius was defanged a bit because they want 13-year-olds to come to the movie theater. They're going to take their parents' money and they're all going to, go and see the movies once or twice or three times because they love Marvel. And people that are a little older might want to see something that has a little bit more fang in it, no pun intended. But I also think that your other point is well said. It may not, it could be, some sort of, allegory for addiction to certain things. I mean, in a lot of these movies, vampires can't control themselves, or the books, they can't control themselves, and they rush after the smallest hint and scent of blood, and they have to do that. And that you could easily make a connection to that and addiction as part of that too. But I think I think what Hollywood has done and therefore the market has done is kind of push it to so it's more adaptable to a broader audience. And so to do that, you have to defang them somehow.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with that. Well, I just wanted to address Lunar's comment because it ties in well to the conversation. Lunar says, yeah, I agree with Mason. The world is not black and white, maybe not totally gray. I feel like there is a whole spectrum of colors. Morality is so relative depending on the context. And I agree with that and disagree with that, because there's some things where the context absolutely changes the morality of the situation, but there are some things that are always objectively evil. So for example, shooting someone, well, depending on the context, that's either murder or self-defense. Raping a kid, always pure evil, no matter what. So there are some things that no matter what the situation, it's objectively evil, period. There are parts of morality, there are things that are always morally evil. And I think that's something that's been lost in our culture, especially where the discussion of monster portrayals, werewolves and vampires, and things that go bump in the night is concerned. Humans always want to we want to look for the good in the bad. There's people that have that instinct, and there's also people that always want to pretend that things aren't as bad as they are, and they want to pretend the darkness isn't there so they feel more comfortable. And I think that's a large reason that vampires have been defanged, because portraying evil honestly is terrifying, and it scares the shit out of people, and it should. And Hollywood isn't doing anyone a service by defanging evil. Humans need to know what actual evil looks like, so we have a compass.
But actually, it goes deeper than just defanging them, because what has been done for the most part, and to quite a large extent, is fetishization.
Yeah.
Again, to go back to something like Being Human, which I'll go back to because it's one of the main vampire things I've watched. That the fetishization of vampires in that is massive. There's so many sex scenes that are involved with the vampires having some sort of sex whilst bleeding or in blood, and I find that interesting. Why do you think that is?
I have my thoughts on that. Caitlin, Joe, do you want to go first, or? Okay, so one of the things is humans have. So one of the things that fuels the culture, that like this thing that exists in Western culture where there's a little bit of stigma naturally around sex, people like to pretend that's rooted in Judeo-Christian values, and it's actually not. It's much deeper in human psychology than that, where humans naturally are sort of standoffish about sexual interactions with anyone they don't 100% trust. And so when you build up on the human psyche from there, things that are seen as sexually taboo or not things that are normal in sexual conduct leave us with this feeling of guilt or being bad, or whatever dark word you want to tie in with it. And people begin to associate that with sexual thrill, and it actually becomes exciting. And over the many, many thousands of years that human storytelling has been evolving, that feeling has branched out to all the things you can possibly imagine. And that's one of the reasons that has happened with vampire stories, is we've taken, exactly as you said, Mason, we've taken darkness, we've taken evil and fetishized it, because we've over the many, many thousands of years human storytelling has been evolving, we have gradually, more and more, step by step, tied that innate sense of guilt or shame that humans naturally feel when we engage in sexual acts with people we don't fully trust. And of course, you wouldn't trust someone who you know is evil, so it's a natural tie-in. And it's just evolved naturally from there. I hope I made that clear.
Yeah, no,
So
I hear you. I have actually a couple other views on that too. I think that first of all, getting back to Mason's point earlier about someone not always being good 100% or evil 100%, there's a path to redemption, right? Like someone who fell to the dark side, like Darth Vader, comes back, right? And we all cheer for that person to have a second chance. In the case of Dracula, getting back to the vampire topic, Dracula is kind of redeemed in the end. I mean, he's almost saved by his love of his first wife, and when he sees Mina Murray, he's in love. It reminds him of his first wife, and so it's almost like a release, his death. He doesn't want to be cursed anymore. And even if you break it down and look at like you said, a lot of these scenes, the vampirism, I think there's always a desire. I mentioned it earlier about the immortality of it, but the sexuality of it, the sensuality of it. You look at the Bela Lugosi's, of the world. They would come out of the dark with this European accent, and they would charm women. And I'm not a woman, but there's something, and I could talk to my wife about this, and she agrees. There's something about a strong man just taking a woman. You know what I mean? There's something about that that is attractive to them, and so I think that's even changed over time. Now that's a social faux pas. You have to ask before you kiss. And no means no. Where Bela Lugosi would just come in and look into your eyes, and women would swoon, and that was okay, socially acceptable 80 years ago when those movies were made. And I think that if you extend that out into this culture, at the end of it, blood means life. And whether they're bathed in blood in these crazy sex scenes that show up in movies, or you even see like the True Bloods on HBO, where the vampires are sort of agnostic to sexual orientation. Anybody, for them, it's not a man or a woman, it's a piece of meat. In some respects, they kind of get away from that. I think there's a lot of that. And you even start to see that when you dabble into the Anne Rices of the world, like the way she wrote The Stat, and the way that she had written Louis. You get away from not only the sensuality of it, but the sexuality of it. But they were able to use their powers to lure people in, and then that's how they fed. And so, I think there's a lot of redemption to leave people with blood. I think there's a lot of answers to your question there, Mason.
Really quick, Jimmy, I just want to go to the comments really quick, and Jimmy, ask for clarification from you. Michael Myers is not evil, he's misunderstood. You care to clarify that? Because I beg to differ.
Yeah.
I like
So what we're touching on here then is that vampires are humanity unbound.
Yeah.
Which
kind of brings me to an interesting thing, and Joe, you and I will probably have a lot to talk about, and you'll be glad that I have your email. My grandmother, her parents were from Romania, and so she got passed down a ton of oral history
Giggity.
that has to do, Anyway, she got passed down a ton of oral history that has to do with vampires, and one of their big things is the original story of Dracula, and how in some ways over there he's seen as a hero. And I think that that's one of the things that's kind of been lost to vampire fiction, is the fact that it originally had this angle of, in order to defeat darkness, you have to become as strong as it or worse in order to defeat it.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's the story of Vlad Tepes, who was the character that Dracula was based upon, was a real guy. He was part of the Order of the Dragon in Transylvania, Romania, that area there was known as Wallachia, and they you know, you're right. I mean, he did some things to make the Turks scared of him. You know,
Yes.
impaling people and leaving them hanging there and burning people in a building or nailing their caps to their heads and things like that. He went, like you said, he went so extreme, but it was because he was protecting what at one time was a piece of the Holy Roman Empire, you know, just
Mhm.
the Eastern Front, and the Turks were coming, and he wasn't getting political support that he needed in other places. And so his little country, he practiced scorched earth. He burned the forest. He killed animals so that the Turks would run out of food. They had nowhere to forage, and he was damaging his own land to save his own people. So it doesn't surprise me that he became a national hero in many respects, because he saved them. But in the end, you know, he died. You know, they don't know how he died under these strange circumstances. Was he assassinated? He didn't die in battle, but it was one of those things where, but you know, you look at that from the outside, and you're like, holy cow, this guy has bodies hanging outside of his castle. He's got to be a vampire. And that oral
Mhm.
story, I think, just kind of gets played down over the centuries.
Yeah.
You know, when a lot of those folks just were illiterate, they couldn't read, and that was a good way of passing along a story. So you
Mhm.
have
Right.
exaggerative tales, and people grab on them, and they'll remember somebody being impaled outside the house, you know, or in this case, outside the castle. You know, they're never going to forget that. It's an easy thing to burn into someone's head.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a great nugget in there that I just want to expand on just a smidge before we get back to the core subject. This idea that you have to, well, Caitlin touched on it. You have to rise up to meet the challenge of evil, and in storytelling and in real life, this is one of the ways storytelling and real life parallel. There's only two ways to meet up, to rise up and meet an evil you're facing. You have to become as bad or worse than the evil, or equally or more good. You have to be a equally powerful or greater light, or an equally powerful or greater darkness. Those are the two methods you can tackle darkness from, and that's actually something I'm playing with in my own writing right now. And that is fundamentally what the story of Vlad the Impaler, Vlad Dracula is a guy who became darkness incarnate to repel darkness. He shielded his people under his darkness because he cared about his people and he could use his darkness to protect them. And that's one of those places where it kind of justifies the modern defanging of vampires a little bit, because the source of the original mythos was someone who was using darkness for, noble ends.
Mhm.
Good point.
Yeah. But I do like the progression, though, from having that back context, even though context is for pussies, but having that back context of, you know, having the fact that he took on this darkness on himself, because there's a whole legend about him, him going to the mountain and meeting this dude in a cave and, um, you know, imbuing the evil onto himself. And I like how, I don't know if you saw Dracula Untold with Luke Evans.
It was good.
Oh,
But
yeah, that was like 10 years ago, whatever it was, 8 years ago. Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah. I like how they touched on that. They didn't go completely extensively into it, but they did touch on that original. But I like the fact that they went into that, and then when you couple it with Dracula by Bram Stoker, which is something I read every year, it adds a progression of he took on this darkness because he felt like it was the only way that he was going to be able to, save his wife and his son and his people and all of this stuff. But then by the time you get to the end of Dracula, he has this realization of, oh wow, I did this for this reason, but I completely lost myself in the pursuit of doing this and forgot why I had taken on this darkness. And then it completely consumed him until the end, when he finally sort of gets that redemption and that peace.
He who fights monsters, Nietzsche.
Yeah.
Yep.
What I find interesting is, and actually this discussion has been kind of symbolic of it, is vampires get a lot more attention than werewolves do.
Yes.
Now, I think part of that is because if you're looking at it from a traditional standpoint, right, vampires have a lot more freedom to explore. Because if you're just looking at a werewolf from the typical werewolf, you know, transforms at the full moon, loses control, becomes a beast. There's only so much that you can sort of do with that, which is why you know, people like Zach and other people have had to you know, create like the shifter sort of version of werewolves. But what I find interesting is that how Zach mentioned that they've been no, sorry, it was Joe that mentioned that they've been tied together culturally. And I think that is because if you think about it, they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. Because if a vampire is humanity unleashed, then the way a werewolf is portrayed, a werewolf is humanity very much bound. Because we see with vampires that they revel in their abilities, you know, and in a way it seems like it's a gift. They're stronger, they're faster, they have more capabilities. Whereas in a werewolf, a lot of the time is portrayed as a very tragic character. They're cursed. They're constantly trying to find a way to make sure that they don't hurt people, that their affliction doesn't destroy the people around them, and that the monster doesn't wreck their life. So I think that's why the two monsters are so at odds, because they are on opposite ends of the spectrum morally.
Mason, that is a very astute point. I just wanted to agree totally. Go ahead, Joe.
No, I was going to say, I mean, that's right, you know, tap dead center. I mean, I think that you're, you know, there's a point where werewolves can't control themselves. It's not their fault, and they don't want to be what they are. Where vampires are much more in control. You could be a vampire in control and walk away from a situation where, you know, a werewolf is crazy and loses his control and ends up hurting people that they love. Even from the original, you go back to that original stuff, and even the mythos, as you mentioned before, Zach. I mean, that came from a pack of wolves coming into Paris. I mean, the werewolf stuff. They came into Paris and they had to kill. There was a pack of crazy wolves, of 40 wolves or whatever the number was. I can't remember. I think it was 40. You know, and they literally started eating people, and they thought it was people that had turned into wolves. So they marched out to kill these wolves, and that's how the werewolf mythos sort of became itself. And they're coming into town to do that, and they're crazy and or crazed as a result of this disease that they've got, this lycanthropy that they have. And so, you know, I love the comparison, Mason. I think that's really astute.
To draw another line of comparison, and this is another way they're at opposite ends of the spectrum. So vampires are a direct embodiment of darkness, but we look at vampire bats and we see them as being a parasitic creature of darkness that feeds on the life force of others. Look at the cultural image wolves and canines have. Dogs and wolves are once our enemies, but it's something that we tamed and became our friends and our protectors and our steadfast companions. So werewolves are an embodiment of this idea that we can take something that's profoundly dangerous and primal and not quite something we fully understand and tame it and use it for our own ends and become the beast to protect those we love. So again, that they're on opposite ends of the spectrum in that way, because no one looks at a vampire bat and says, I can use that power. I can become a blood-sucking parasite and it would be great. You know what I mean? But everyone looks at a wolf and says, God damn, that's a majestic hunter. And they work together and they love each other, and there's so much that is human about canids. And I think they're opposites in that way. Which is another, just, it ties right into what Mason said, just beautiful opposites.
Yeah. At the same time, in a way, if you think about it symbolically,
Lunar.
they are Sorry, go.
No,
Lunar said Chihuahuas still have that primal rage energy.
If you think about it symbolically, they're also the two different facets of evil. Because a vampire, for the most part, has made, there are a few exceptions, but for the most part has made that choice, right? They've become a vampire because they wanted to live longer, they wanted more power. And from a symbolic standpoint, it shows that when you get what you want, you don't. It's not always as good as you think it's going to be.
Right. Be careful.
And
what
it
you wish
shows
for.
how people who embrace evil destroy others, but also destroy themselves. Whereas in a werewolf, for the most part, on a broad spectrum, are portrayed as people who are trying to be good people, but evil finds a way. Evil finds a way to infest their lives and take over them whether they want it or not. So the vampire is the smiling evil, and the werewolf is the cunning evil that finds a way no matter what.
Which is something that I find to be interesting if people were to lean more into the actual mythology of lichens and differentiate between there being just simply werewolves and lichens, because lichens come from, the legend of Lycan in Greece who, ended up having a son that was born with this situation. So you still have, when you look at the opposite of vampire and lichen, vampires are humanity unleashed, but in the worse unleashing, because humans are not at their core good. They are not. This is them to the extreme if they were completely unbound. But
agreed.
lichens in that, in that symbolism is, hey, you are born into having this, more primal, more extreme, more bestial nature, and it's something that you have to live with. And so learning to be able to control that and use that for good is, in a way, I think makes them not so much an embodiment of evil, but a representation of, hey, if these are the things that can happen if you live by your nature, but if you, learn to live in a more symbiotic way with nature, this is the good that can come of it.
Kind of like blameless victims, right? You don't hold it against them because they're cursed.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Themselves.
Right. And that's a good tie into what that point ties in very well to what me and Mason were talking about, where they're on the opposite end of this spectrum. And like Kate says, there's that distinction in lore between werewolves and lichens. And it's exactly that, is that lichens are werewolves that have learned to use their power deliberately. They're no longer victims of what they have to live with, but now they use it willingly. It's a part of them that they have come to master and take dominion over. And I think that's another interesting thing to play with in werewolf and lichen mythos, is exploring the idea of, I was once subject to and at the mercy of this primal beast inside me, and now I have taken hold of it. And that is absolutely, and that's something that gets explored sometimes in werewolf stories. It got explored a little bit in Underworld. Actually, it got explored quite a bit in Underworld when they did the prequel movie, where they explained how lichens came to be. But I've always loved stories that dive into that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's interesting too that we see with werewolves that the transformation, if you take the vampires turning into bats sort of thing, their transition into a bat is just seamless, right? They just, right, and now I'm a bat. Whereas with a werewolf, they very much focus on the pain of that transformation. You know, they focus on the bones breaking and the skeleton reforming and the pain that is caused by those transformations. And I find that interesting too.
That is, you know, so I just referenced Nietzsche a little bit earlier. And I think that what you just hit on, Mason, this is a good point that you just made me think of. A good point to make about that is that that's symbolic of the difference between vampires and werewolves and the use of their power. Because vampires, as we've been hitting on, they use their power for their own selfish means. They're completely unfettered. They do as they will. Werewolves have learned to control themselves. And one thing we know about real-world psychology is that when you struggle to get something, you appreciate it more. When you suffer to learn a lesson, you learn the lesson better. You retain it better, you act on it. And so, in that way, the pain that werewolves experience when they transform into their bestial selves is symbolic of that taming of the monster. Their pain and their suffering when they take hold of that part of themselves is their price to pay for being able to control their darkness.
It's an interesting difference though then between the werewolf who can't control and is forced to change, and you know the lichen or the shifter who chooses to change. It's an interesting distinction, because at the same time that I would say that the pain for the one that can't control the change, that symbolism I would say is more to do with how difficult it is to hold your true nature at bay.
Yeah.
Yeah, symbolism there for sure.
Lunar says, Mason is amazing, bro. No jokes. His point of view and his ideas are amazing. He has an amazing mind. He may be in the dark, but his mind will guide us to the light.
That is beautiful.
Thank you, Luna.
Yeah.
I know you can't see it, Mason, but I'm weeping softly over here.
Oh, that's good. Killing me softly.
I love how we never actually answered the question. Like we've really dug into this, but not actually answered the question of whether they're coming back around again.
Oh well, I think 100% they are.
Yeah, I think it's cyclical. I think people always are attracted by them. That's why they never go away.
Right. Right. They might fall out of vogue because people get oversaturated for a few years. Like that's what happened with Twilight. We hadn't had them for a while, at least not in any significant way, especially not together, because I think Twilight came a few years after Underworld wrapped up. So people got a break from Underworld, and there was a vacuum. And the vacuum grew, and Twilight filled it, and people were really sick of it because the Twihards were obnoxious as fuck. And then now we're back in a vacuum, and we're starting to see some stuff trickle into the vacuum again, like Morbius. And I think again Marvel is going to be dropping. I think in the Marvel universe he's called Wolfman, but I doubt that's what they'll call him in the movie.
Like
what would you
Man-Wolf?
Or Man-Wolf, yeah. I think, yeah, you're right. Kate.
What would you like to see done with a werewolf character? Because I definitely, personally, I would like to see werewolves explored more, because I feel like we've had very little in terms of exploration of them, and I would like to see it done more. But I find it interesting asking you guys, especially Zach and Kate, who are working on stuff with vampires, and especially Zach with having the garden. What do you think you would like to see done with werewolves, shifters, lichens in the future?
Well, I'm a sucker for. I like going down the same old path that I've always gone down. I'm a sucker for tropes and tradition. But something that I would like seeing explored is putting them in different settings. And that's actually something I'm playing with right now in my super secret project, is taking werewolves and putting them in settings you don't normally find them. Like, it sounds stupid when you say it, but werewolves in space, how would that actually go? And what would that actually look like? And I think if it was done well, that could be really fucking interesting. And just playing with mixing different things in and putting them in different sandboxes and giving them different toys to play with and throwing them against other races in new and interesting ways. And not just that, but also with perhaps giving them a new and dynamic mythos that is flexible. A mythos that has the potential to encompass everything we've discussed in terms of werewolf lore and more. Usually when you see werewolves on screen, it's either werewolves or lichens. Well, what about a universe where there was both? And that would be really interesting to see. Like, one would see the other as being pussies who control themselves and are subject to the whims of others, and the other would see the other as untamed rabid beasts. It would be a really interesting dynamic.
Or you could go from the whole angle of there was a whole part of mythos where even in some places in Africa they've seen this, where people would purposefully go and infect themselves with lichen blood in order to become werewolves, like for the purpose of having that bestial power, but then being completely out of control. So you could also run the whole dynamic of the favorite thing I like to say, humans who play it being monsters do far more monstrous things than monsters who play it being human. And that would be a very interesting dynamic.
Having a group of humans that hunt down lichens or werewolves to bathe in their blood and absorb the animal spirit, and they just become like the worst possible people when they do it.
Yes.
That would
it would make it would make an amazing terrible B movie. Werewolf on a submarine.
Werewolves from outer space.
Werewolf on a submarine. Oh man, that would be a pain in the ass to shoot, like, because the spaces are so cramped. They would have to be really careful with the camera work on that one.
Oh gosh, that would be as bad as doing werewolves on a plane.
I've had it with these motherfucking werewolves on this motherfucking plane.
I've had it with these motherfucking werewolves on this motherfucking plane. Lunar says, I'm a sucker for diverse content, so I'm into anything that can tell me a good story.
Yeah.
Werewolves on a submarine, in space, on ice.
On ice. Oh my god. Yeah, you should write that, Lunar.
The newest from Groomers, Disney.
Right.
I think it'd be interesting to see a culture of werewolves in which perhaps the typical werewolfism. I think you could explore maybe like adolescence a little bit with that, where as they grow older they become more like a lichen, whereas as they're going through that adolescent phase where the hormones are just raging and they're out of control, then they're a lot more at the whims of the transformation.
Yeah.
That would be super, super fun to play with. I wish I'd thought of that before I wrote Garden Saga. I wish I'd thought of that before I actually got as far into garden as I can, because I can't retcon now.
Oh man. Or, you could have a whole bunch of people who maybe started like, a small civilization to hide the fact that some of them had, become werewolves because, somebody had gotten bitten and then it went out of control. And so, now you've got people trying to hide that fact.
Well, I did have this idea for wild tribes of my shifters, but I hadn't decided whether or not to actually implement it yet, and I'm not sure because there's so much shit in the third book that I have to get to already. I'm not sure I'll have room for them, but it is something that I've played with in my head.
Yeah. But I think that
I'm interested.
Go ahead.
I'm interested to see if there is. Well, I guess Zach will tell me if there isn't. I'm interested to see if there's anyone that gets, or anyone that has been stuck in their bestial form. Who's lost control of it and been stuck in it at some point.
You'll see, my friend. Can't wait to have a copy of your book here in Costa Rica. Yeah, I mean, I never thought about whether or not a physical copy of my book would be something that people in foreign countries could access. But yeah, that's a good point, Lunar. I had not even thought about how to get it to. I mean, because you can get it anywhere where there's an Amazon warehouse. You can get it, but I don't know if Amazon has facilities down in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I'll tell you what you could do, Lunar. We could work out something where I could ship it to you directly, and then I could even sign the copy for you. Let me know. Let me know if you want to try to work something like that out.
Or you could head over to his YouTube channel where he's kindly provided his own narration of it for free. And if you can help get him to 1.7k subscribers by the end of this book, he will read the second one. And frankly, if he doesn't, I'm going to be heartbroken because I'm way too invested in this goddamn universe now.
The funny thing about you doing that plug, Mason, is Lunar already went and commented on the first chapter reading.
Yeah, well, it wasn't just for Lunar. It was for anyone who watches this back.
Exactly.
That's true. Thank you.
Yep. Be like, yeah, get him to 1.7k subs, or you hate
You
blind
keep saying
people.
it's 1.5k, but thank you. The extra 2, I don't. Hey, if you want to get me to 1.7, by all means.
And you even got complimented on your narration skills earlier today.
Yeah, I thought you did a fine job.
Well, I'm certainly not bad at it. Well, guys, we're pushing what, 4 hours now?
Almost, yeah. But it's been a good time. So.
And it's getting later for me, so.
Yeah.
Right, that is one of my main considerations. It's not that I'm not having a good time with you all, but Mason is probably past his bedtime, considering he's 8 hours ahead of us. And my bladder.
I need cocoa and bed.
Yes.
Oh man.
Oh my goodness.
I wish I had some hot
perfect
cocoa in
formula.
my
like this. he says, from your favorite bakery factory, aka my butt.
My butt.
And Luna, if you're interested in narration, I also have stories narrated on my channel too.
Yes, he does.
Yes, he does.
YouTube.com/Mason in the Dark.
And if you think I'm good at narrating, man, Mason puts me to shame. Mason needs to be a voice actor. And in fact, if Garden ever gets made into something where, there's going to be potential for that, Mason has automatically casted. He has no choice or say in the matter.
As who?
That's a good question.
He's like, I want to be Amnes. Just kidding.
I kind of feel like Mason would make a good Pogs, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what I'm interested to see what Joe thinks of Garden if he ever gets around to it.
Well, it sounds like I'm going to get a copy soon or something to take a look at, right?
Well, if you don't want to go over to my YouTube channel, I can send
Oh,
you...
if it's on YouTube now, I thought it was the book you guys were talking about, your super secret project.
Oh, the super secret project? Yeah, Garden of Lies.
Different.
Different thing. Garden of Lies is available. I have physical copies that I'm going to be taking to flea markets and shit. You can also just go on Amazon and get it. And it's available on YouTube. I'm almost, I have like 8, 9 more chapters to read. But the super secret project, that's still under wraps, and I will send you that once I'm done with it.
Gotcha.
Because
Well, I'll pick that up for sure. It sounds like it's in my sweet
If I
spot.
if I had
unfortunately,
physical
no
stuff
vampires
to
in
send
there,
you of the
but-
Bleeding Ground,
Yeah, is it
I would-
downloadable or is it YouTubeable?
The
the Bleeding Ground. Yeah, it's YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, that's simple enough.
Yep.
Oh, man.
And the bite-sized chunks too.
That is one thing that is nice about them. They are definitely like, oh man, I got a 30-minute car ride. I can do the next episode of Bleeding Ground. If only there were more of them.
Hey, dude, I'm at 7,242 words now,
Oh god.
and I'm not done.
Oh man, this is gonna take you. I'm starting to think you're gonna end up doing the next video in 2 parts.
I've thought about that because it's going to be a long chapter, and I feel like no one's going to click on it. But at the same time, I don't know where I would chop. I'd have to think about that.
Right. I mean, the people who are actually your fans and who are invested are going to sink their teeth into it. So I would just, if you can, I would just do it all as one video, personally. The real fans will be there.
Lunar says, excellent. Gotta listen to Mason all day. Fuck work. Only Mason.
Yes, you won't regret it.
That's right. That's
Not once you meet Valdus Doyle.
Exactly.
Evil incarnate. With a blackened, swinging brick for a heart that holds no love for any living thing.
I love how you just have that line like loaded up in the queue always, Mason. Alrighty, everyone.
man.
This has been Adventurous After Dark. JV, you are the guest. Tell them where they can find you.
Sure, jvhilliard.com is the website, at jvhilliardbooks on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and JV Hilliard on Facebook. You can find my stuff. It's pretty ubiquitous. Anywhere you want to go to take a look at distribution, Amazon, Audible, Apple Books, you got them all. Just Google it and you'll find it. And thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. This was a lot of fun.
We try to make it fun.
Hey, no problem. And we'll have to bring you back at some point.
I'd love to. Second one comes out in August, so maybe sometime later in the summer.
Yeah, that would be good. Hopefully I could read the first one by then. I can't make promises because I'm busy
I'll
as
send
fuck.
you a copy of the audiobook. You won't have to read it. You can listen to
Oh, that would. I wish you told me that was an option.
Yeah.
I could-
So
okay.
I've got Kate's email. I'll send it over to you guys.
Bet.
All right,
Alrighty.
thank you.
And of course, you know where to find Team Adventurous, Zach the Dulge at YouTube, Mason of the Dark YouTube, right here on Twitch, Wild Kate on YouTube. Of course, there's Adventurous Publications, the website. You can go sign up to our newsletter, buy yourself some sweet merch. And hey, thanks for being here. Welcome to the adventure.
Welcome to the adventure.
Now, I know this is Mason's favorite part, so we won't forget this time. Da, 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 da,
Dun, dun, dun.
da, da, da,
Dun, dun,
da,
dun.
da, da.